right, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of The Stiff Truth. I'm Scott Casanova, and with me on the other end here, my good buddy, my best friend, my compadre, my homie, my home slice, Mr. Bob West. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing well, thank you very much.
It's so nice that you made it across the border for the show. Welcome.
We don't know which border that is yet, but I'm here.
Bob, I know we said we wouldn't mention it, but I got to say, it's episode Dirty 30. Not bad, right? Moving right along.
Hey, we've withstood each other for 30 episodes, and you're welcome, Stiffies.
Yeah, we've got some.
It's been a chore for Scott.
It really has. I was going to say we have some tough skin, as I need to take another drink of my beer. But anyways, another week in the books. Bob, I don't know what's been going on. I mean, too much. We do talk. Mainly it's about stocks lately, which I think is very, very grown up of us, even though, it's more of like an addiction like we've talked about. But what's been going on with you this week, bud? Anything exciting?
Excuse me. Yeah, a little bit exciting. Since I'm the super progressive person that I am.
Yeah.
Jess finally got her Native American recognition card.
Now, do they still call that an Indian card? Because that's what I heard it was called a long time ago. Or is that no good anymore? Has that been canceled?
I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't even really know what it says, but it definitely has her number on there. But it's her card. So her tribe, to kind of sum this up really quick, her tribe is a North American tribe that lived on the border of Canada and Montana. And then
that makes sense.
Like the Sioux up there and the Blackfoot and all that, right? Well, her tribe was kind of like a mixture and kind of outcast. They never got federally recognized land like the Blackfoot and the Sioux and all these other tribes around them. And so they just kind of were this tribe that was like the tribe of no land. You know what I mean? They were always kind of getting kicked out of everywhere because no one wanted them there because they didn't really belong. And they've been fighting for a long time, like decades, to try to get federal recognition for their tribe. Wow. And finally, President Trump signed that federal recognition, and now they are officially recognized. So then, Jess filed and got her official card, and so subsequently, then our children will be getting their cards too, because then, they're half her and half whatever mix I am. I haven't gotten my 23 results yet, but 23andMe, but we'll let you guys know when those come in, when I pay for them. But
I set my shit away a long time ago. I don't know what's taking so long.
Very
you wanted
progressive.
Money. You wanted money.
So for those of y'all that ever want to say or ever want to know, I am indeed married to a minority and have minority children. We are a mixed family. Blended.
That's pretty exciting to say. So it's interesting that it sounds like that she was a part of, for a while, kind of a nomadic kind of Indian tribe, basically, huh? No land, no kind of recognition. And then President Trump, as he's signing this, is also signing to use the Dakota pipeline too. Just a 2-for-1.
Yeah, it was all the same thing. And you know how it is, right? They just line them up and he's just like, shh. And I'm wondering if he even asks or cares or whatever. He probably has someone vet them from the GOP, and he's like, yeah, this one's fine. Okay.
Well, he's got a standard vetting. He's like, okay, before I sign this, it's good for somebody, right? Great. And I get credit? Fantastic. Here you go. Next
right.
one. And he just, rinse and repeat. You know what I mean?
Right, because he doesn't read his daily briefings. He has them read to them. He doesn't read his emails, which is a known fact before he became president, just when he was president of the Trump Foundation. Huh. That he has a secretary or an assistant read his emails, and then he responds back, and they write it down and reply to the email for him, right? Because he's that wealthy, I guess. So beyond that, though, so that's why I'm saying he probably doesn't really read these bills and has someone else vet them for him and then give him the Cliff's Notes version.
That is interesting, because I was kind of thinking that I knew that he didn't read his own emails. I didn't know about him not reading everything else, but I thought he took it to the level of he would literally have somebody transcribe them into a cartoon and then show him the cartoon so he could understand it. No, that's not how it works.
I really don't know, but to be a fly on the wall, right?
Seriously.
What
I
are we
just
doing then? Well, you need to read and sign these 6 executive orders here. Here's a couple of laws that got passed. Sign all that. Yeah. When's my golf? Yeah, just
yeah,
give them here. Let me sign. Okay,
he's like,
is it time to go play golf?
so Trumpy baby, put down the slinky and the rubber ducky. It's time to get to work here for a couple minutes. I love that. Well, that's cool, man. I mean, hey, say what you will. There are benefits that come from having that card, from having the Native American card, as you may well know. So that's interesting. And then, yes, you've now just jumped ahead to another level of progressivism that I just can't obtain.
I just want you to know that, Jess was always Native American, even when she didn't have a card.
No. I won't buy that. I won't buy that at all. So anyways, back to what I was saying, Bob, is the week has been pretty boring, right? We've talked about stocks. That's about it. But I will tell you this. I went to the pool again yesterday. That was pretty nice, man. That's we're going to the pool like every week now for 3 or 4 weeks. It's been pretty fun. Now, yesterday was a really interesting day to go to the pool because it was like 70 something degrees and cloudy. So,
ooh, a little nipply.
It was quite cold. Like I got in the pool and literally just stayed in the pool until it was time for us to go because getting out would have been just like way too cold and just not fun at all. So it was one of those things, but it was one of those things where we had to force it. It's like just get in the goddamn pool and do it because we can. And summer's almost gone. You know what I mean? So it was pretty cool, dude.
That's true. The nights are getting a little bit colder lately. So our pool is small. So when the nights get colder, it really does affect the water temperature. And it has gone down a couple of degrees this week. And it doesn't seem like much to go from like 80 to 78. Oh, but it is. It is.
It's pretty dramatic. Yeah, no, I can tell you that right now. It's just I don't know. I think that might be it. Might be it for the pool, but we had to get in there. Like I was just mentioning too, pretty exciting little chapter of flipping a little bit more back into normalcy up here in Colorado. I don't know how you guys are doing in New Mexico. I haven't been paying attention that much, but like I was saying, movie theaters opened yesterday. I don't know how it's going to be. So Jamie and Elizabeth are going to see Wonder Woman right now at the movie theater because they're running some older stuff.
Yeah.
They even got the original Jurassic Park from '93. Now, I thought that would actually be pretty fucking cool to go see in the theater again because I don't know about you, but I was 12 years old when that movie came out. Obviously, I guess you were probably 14. But I saw that movie like 4 or 5 times in the theater when I was in middle school.
Wasn't it epic hearing those footsteps of the T-Rex in the theater? You could feel him coming, right?
Oh, dude, yeah. You feel it in your balls. I mean, it was interesting too. So that's pretty cool though, because even though it's kind of strange, I mean, we got a really cool theater down the road here too, where you can literally, there's like a full sky bar is what they call it. You know, that's the name for it upstairs. You can get like big ass pitchers of beer, big mugs of beer, take them in the theater, order all kinds of food. You can't do that now. You got to order your shit like before you go in. And now you can't have beer or alcohol in the actual theater, but you have to drink it outside, like in the lobby. And then the face mask thing. So I'm not sure how I'd feel about sitting in a movie because movies are pretty long, you know, a couple hours at least, wearing a face mask the entire time. I mean, can you have popcorn when you're in there now? I guess that's a no-go. I don't understand why they don't just kind of limit the people, charge for full price, and there's like socially distanced people in the theater. They're not doing that though. They're kind of just charging a cheap amount to get people to get back in there to stimulate their business. And then they're just like having everybody wear face masks and everything. But it's still exciting to see that there is actually the theaters are open here. Some theaters, Regal theaters anyways. So that's cool.
Well, that's good because I love a good movie. Speaking of good movie and what's going on in the week, we lost Chadwick Boseman this week.
Oh, yeah, the gentleman that played Black Panther.
Yeah, and Jackie Robinson in 42.
Wow.
All right, great job doing that film. No one really saw that one coming. I guess he's been battling colon cancer for 4 years.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you say that too, and I feel really bad for the guy. Recently saw, it was obviously very recent because he just passed, but I saw a video of him and he was talking about, I can't remember what he was talking about, but people were just blowing up the comments, calling him like, what's wrong with this guy? He's falling off the rails. He looks like a crackhead because he was very, very thin.
And he was losing weight because of his cancer.
Yeah, losing a lot of weight. And it just goes to show you like, hey, you know, I know it's one of those things, right? I mean, I'm sure we've all done it, right? We've all seen a celebrity and you like see him in film. They look great. You see him like, in an interview or what, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck's going on with this guy? He's got to be on drugs or something. But you gotta pump the brakes. Be a little bit careful there with your judging because you never know what somebody's going through. And I had no fucking clue this guy had cancer. I mean, like
he didn't tell anybody except for his family.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. It's kind of a personal, private thing. I mean, when was Black Panther? I want to say that movie's not that old, right? Like 4 years ago, something like that. 2015, 16, something like that.
That's a great question.
And he was in like he was in the Avengers movies.
2018.
Yeah.
So he most likely knew of his cancer and
at that time,
because that would have meant it probably wrapped in 2017 and was doing editing for that year, right? It takes about a year. So
that's pretty interesting, man. That's tough times, man.
Tough guy. A shame because he was really coming along in his career and really producing good work.
And he's only 43 too. That's the other sad part. Young guy, you know what I mean?
Right. So could you imagine at 39 for you? That's next year, right?
Yeah.
At 39, finding out that like you have stage 3 cancer, which stage 3 is a pretty bad prognosis, right?
This is true.
So yeah, that would be devastating. Me and Jess were talking about that and how devastating that would be. Like at this point in my life to find something like that out, it'd just be terrible. So.
Especially when you're just starting to take off in the stock market too. I mean, that would be the biggest bummer right there. You know what I mean, bud?
I know, but those stocks will stay there. They'll outlive me.
Just pass them on to the kids, right?
That's right.
Well, that's tough times, man. But switching gears a little bit here. We're talking about new movies and everything.
Oh, well, before we even get into that, I know this is the perfect segue to hit that, but I do want to mention that a few days ago, I did join the podcast of Slightly Sophisticated with its host, Kyle Ramos. And we had an interesting, about an hour-long discussion about kind of the state of politics, states' rights, or lack of, right? Kind of the direction of the country, kind of where things are at. Very, very interesting conversation. It was my pleasure to be on there. So if anyone wants to catch that, that is the latest episode of Slightly Sophisticated. You can find it on iTunes for sure. I don't know exactly where all he's syndicated, but he's all over Google. So if you want to Google Slightly Sophisticated and catch that show, it's a pretty good podcast. At least it was when I got on there.
Nice. Hey, nice. Well, to, got to plug yourself there, of course. I mean, I'm sure it's probably the best show he's done. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard it, to be honest with you, Bob. So I think this is the first you dropped it on me, unless you told me about it. You told me about this, but not that it happened.
Yeah, we had some scheduling mishaps, communication issues, but we finally got it sorted out, and we finally sat down, and I thought it was just going to be a quick interview, but really it was just the whole show.
Interesting. So, very cool. Very cool.
So man. I was his featured guest, and we had a very interesting conversation. He's a little more conservative than me, but that's not a huge deal. We are intellectual patriots and grown-ups, and we were able to have a very candid and good conversation about kind of the state of things. So if you guys want to check it out, again, that's Slightly Sophisticated.
So, Bob, let me get this straight. You're a liberal-leaning guy, and you don't get hysterically angry at somebody for not having the same views, and that's slightly to the right?
No, it's funny. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was like, and this is kind of the point of that we've talked about at several points of the show, that a lot of people kind of circle around that center line of politics somewhere in that, 20% on each side. And sure. I think that's where probably the majority of people dwell. But I was just like, if I was religious and I had like real skin in the game on like abortion or whatever, that's probably enough for me to actually register as a Republican. I was like, I'm probably that close.
That makes sense.
To being a Republican. But I'm not a very religious person. So, and I can give two shits about that topic, and I don't necessarily think it belongs in politics or in our government or as a topic of discussion at all.
Bob, now I will correct you on that. I think religion does warrant a discussion that we might have pretty soon, huh?
Religion, but specifically, that's why I don't think that it should be a political topic.
No.
I just don't. I think that's something between someone's doctors and their religion and their personal beliefs. And I really don't like big government and big brother getting into our lives that deep to govern us. I'm much smaller of a government guy than that issue. But other than that, but I think that kind of gives everyone a real clear line of where Bob stands on the political spectrums of things, just in case anyone was wondering.
He stands right on the fence, straddling it.
I do. That's the best place to be. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, I totally, I like that you said that too, because I would have to say in a lot of respects that I am conservative with certain things that I believe in. Definitely more conservative economically, I guess you could say.
Sure.
We'll say that, but same thing. I do not have a strong position on abortion, homosexuality, religion enough to really push me over that at all. And then, I guess there's an overall lack of interest in big government and hardcore authority and regulation too, which kind of pushes me down in the more libertarian kind of spectrum too.
Well, and one of the things that we talked about on the slightly sophisticated podcast that I just mentioned was the states' rights, right? How so we've gone so much to federalism, right? Of every issue has to be passed on a federal law, and that's a bunch of bullshit. In fact, this country was built on basically 13 individual countries that decided to team up to fight potential tyranny of larger superpowers that would come in, like England or Spain or whatever at the time, right? So, but that's all gone away, and everyone wants this huge federal government, and it's not a Democrat only thing. I mean, lately I wouldn't say the true Republicans, but at least the Trumplicans have been about let's push more money out there and bigger government on and control over some issues, and I just wish we'd dial that back and send a lot of things back to the old states. Our country's too diverse to pass a blanket federal law like that, and our states deserve the opportunity to govern their own people according to their own culture.
That's an absolutely great point too, and actually it reminds me. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the show when we get into the RNC convention. But the best speaker, and I think the best line from that convention. And I almost tried to watch, just like I did the DNC, I tried to watch almost every single speech in its entirety, but I don't know if you caught Maximo Alvarez.
I did. I did catch that speech.
What I love, it was a great speech. I think it's the best speech of the convention. And the one thing that I love that he said, and this is paraphrasing, but it was something like, that we believe that he can't believe that we put more trust and faith into government versus our own family and community, kind of speaking to not just the Democrats, but speaking to the ideology of socialism, communism that he faced in Cuba.
It's a fucking slippery slope, man.
It's a very slippery slope. And, when he said these things don't seem radical to me, they seem familiar. It was good. He was choking up near the end too. He was almost crying at the end of his speech. I was like, wow, that was probably the best play by the RNC.
He left Spain for tyranny reasons, right? And then
moved
he went
to
Cuba and then left Cuba for tyranny reasons. And now he's like, literally, he says, I have nowhere else to run.
Yeah. But what a shitty dice roll, huh? It's like his father leaves. He's like, we got to get out of Spain. Let's go to Cuba. Like, okay, you just landed in a worse spot.
Right. And it was probably in like the 50s that he was doing all that, just pre-Castro.
Yeah, because he was talking about during, again, we dive in this a little more.
For you guys that don't know, he was like, he had to have been in his mid-80s. He was an old man.
He was probably, I want to say, kid to maybe early teens when Castro started to control and spit out the rhetoric that got him into power in Cuba. So interesting stuff. But switching gears again, Bob, if you don't mind, to get back on topic.
I like to pull you all over the place, ruin a perfect setup and segue.
You know what? You're the mass ruiner. What can I say? That's why I love you. But anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. There's no segue now. I'm very excited as an 80s child that Bill and Ted Face the Music. Bill and Ted Part 3. Just so everybody, if they don't know, because I know we got some younger listeners out there, this is Alex Winters. Look him up. He was in Lost Boys 2. He was in a couple other movies. Probably most notably, he played Ted, Theodore Logan, in the Bill and Ted movies.
No.
No, he
was Bill
he
S.
played
Preston Esquire.
Yeah, Bill S. Preston Esquire. Ted Theodore Logan is Keanu Reeves.
There you go.
And Keanu Reeves, of course. But this is the third installment. They're both in their 50s right now, and they both have children. It looks fucking fantastic. Now, I haven't seen it yet because we talked about this before the show. I wasn't about to fork up the $24.99 to buy it or the $19.99 to rent it quite yet. But I don't know, man. This seems like it's going to really take me back. It's going to be very nostalgic, and I love the characters. Even God, what's his name too? William Sadler that played Death in the second one.
Yeah.
He even came back to play Death again, and that guy's got to be probably late 60s, early 70s. So it looks funny as fuck. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the previews, right? What are your
thoughts? Everyone, Rufus did not come back.
No, Rufus is dead. That's George Carlin. What can you? R.I.P., buddy.
So awesome little sidebar to that. On Friday night, I watched Bill and Ted with my son. And afterward, because he always like dogs on me for being a boomer, for like watching old shit.
Are you really a boomer though? Are
no,
you really?
Well, to a 13-year-old, yes. I'm ancient, right?
This is true. This is true.
He only knows the version of me that's been weathered and beaten down by the atrocities of life. He doesn't know the younger, dumber me.
And this was his first go, right? He was a Bill and Ted virgin?
He'd never seen it, so he watched it, and then afterward he said, yesterday morning, he said, Dad, that was a really good movie last night. And I'm like, I'm glad that you liked it. We'll watch Bogus Journey, and then we'll get the new one.
There you go.
So he's in for the trilogy now. I mean, Keanu's like part of the best trilogies in cinema.
This is fucking true. If you think about it, we've now got Bill and Ted as a trilogy, the Matrix trilogy. John Wick is like a 5.
For now, it's a trilogy, but there's 2 more.
Yeah, I was about to say. I know they made like 2 more back to back or something like that. People can't get enough John Wick, and I don't blame it. It's great. It's action packed. It's great stuff, and kind of parallels with the guy's life too a little bit. You know, with the tragedy that he deals with. I think it's pretty interesting. So, but no, very excited about Bill and Ted. Can't wait to see it, man. And there's somebody that looks like they're kind of taking the place of the Rufus character. I can't remember. It's a female character. She's a comedian. God, I can't put my finger on her name right now though. But she's very funny, and I think because she looks like she kind of like is like almost like the intergalactic time travel chaperone, so to speak, like Rufus played. You know what I mean? So good stuff, man. But Keanu Reeves, man, what a guy, huh? What a guy.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is something else. Interesting thing about Keanu is he was born in the Beirut, you know, that city in Lebanon that's like half crater now.
Yeah, I believe as folklore goes, he was born out of the explosion, right?
Well, that was his origin story.
Now he's an X-Men all of a sudden. I love that. That's great.
So born in Lebanon, not a Lebanese citizen, but I guess pretty much immediately like picked up and had been moving around. So did a lot of, traveling and moving when he was a kid. Didn't have the greatest childhood. Ended up in Canada, doing some acting up there. Is a Canadian citizen and a dual citizen with UK. So that's
pretty interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of those Canadian American actors. Jim Carrey, Ryan Reynolds, William Shatner. I'm just going off the top of my head here. Some notables.
That's a great list off the top of your head.
Yeah, not bad, right?
That is not bad.
Mike Myers.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. What can I say? I love Canadians. Kind of.
Let's settle it, dude. So, eventually, around high school, he played a lot of hockey. He was in like 5 different schools in 4 years, or 4 different schools in 5 years, or something. Ended up hurting himself in hockey. Wanted to go on with his hockey career at that point. With that at his size, that makes sense.
Sure.
And then hurt himself, couldn't play anymore at a high level. Quit school altogether because with no hockey, there is no school in Canada.
You don't play hockey, you don't eat ham or Canadian bacon, you're fucking out of here.
He moved to LA with a former stepdad because I think this is dad number 4.
Wow.
I think his mom married 5 times.
So he had a really balanced childhood too, just the upbringing, right?
Yes, he had plenty of father figures.
Yeah, he had father figures to choose from.
Yes.
It's like, son, you didn't get 1, you got 4. Quit complaining. Don't be depressed.
So yeah, he went down there, started getting into stuff in his late teens, and as far as acting, and then before you know it, landed a couple of big roles, and then Bill and Ted, and then Bill and Ted really is what shot him into the stratosphere, because a couple years later did Bogus Journey, a year or two after that did Point Break, and then Point Break 1992 MTV's Most Desirable Male or whatever. And
I was about to say that. I was like, kind of like, yeah, Bill and Ted like scratched the surface of superstardom, and then Point Break kind of shot him up into legitimacy, because let's face it, his character there. And then 2 years later, you got Speed, you know what I mean? And that was like his blockbuster fucking smash right there. I think that definitely excelled past monetarily over Point Break. Point Break, better movie. Don't get me wrong at all. But yeah, I can see.
Yeah,
poor Alex Winters. Poor Alex Winters, his counterpart. I just got to chime in here real quick. He just didn't have the face. He didn't have much going on past Bill and Ted and his small little role in Lost Boys. He was an 80s actor. Let's just face it.
Well, and the unique thing about, I mean, there's a bunch of unique things about Keanu. But one of the unique things about his career and his acting chops is what a chameleon of an actor, right? He gets it. He has great timing. He's good in comedies. He's played in horror films. He's one of the best action films. We were talking about this the other day. I think he's the quintessential action star right now in film.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think this started it definitely started with Matrix, right? It definitely started with that trilogy. And then you even have movies like Constantine. That's a fucking great movie where it's kind of almost like a quasi action movie, horror kind of sci-fi spiritual type movie. And then the John Wick movies too. I mean, yeah, I would say right now, if he was doing this back in the 80s, man, he would be right there with like Bruce Willis and Arnold and them too. He's got that. He doesn't have like the mega build like some of those guys, but more of like the Bruce Willis kind of persona. You know what I mean?
Well, and he works hard, and you can tell he's impassioned about his craft. With Matrix, he started learning the different martial arts techniques, and apparently still practices many of those just every day in his training anymore as part of his routine. But then in the John Wick, you can tell he's honed into that, because there is no slow motion crazy Wachowski brothers special effects in John Wick,
or the crazy triple kicks. What was that called? Like that Van Damme used to do all the time.
Oh,
those little frame by frame kicks or whatever. It's like
no bullet dodging, no craziness. But interesting thing about the Matrix, when the Matrix came out, he made a boatload of money. But he structured his deal to where a lot of the special effects and stunt people it's been reported $75 to $80 million of his money went to them, to where they pretty much all ended up with like $1 million a piece. And he wanted to, I guess, make them millionaires.
And, which is so selfless of this guy. This guy is the anti-Hollywood guy, if you ask me. It's the anti-Hollywood guy that is in Hollywood.
So he doesn't eat children? Well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Hey, QAnon, you guys can relax your shit. Stay away from my boy Keanu. He's all right. But in all this too, and we got to back up a little bit too, for the guy to be so involved, so passionate about his craft, he's had to deal with a lot of adversity, a lot of tragedy too. I mean, we talked about it before, which we didn't even really know about his sister. But when did his sister pass away?
I don't know when. It was sometime in the mid 90s.
But it was to cancer, correct?
Yeah, because I think she was diagnosed in 90, and I think she had a 4 or 5 year battle. So that would put her around 95.
Very tragic there. And then, like you were just talking about, as he's just dealing with probably his revamp of superstardom, which we'll just say, right, the Matrix kind of sent him back up. He was kind of not really quiet in the late 90s, just not doing anything big blockbuster after Speed and a couple of movies. That threw him back up there. And then right during that time is when his girlfriend was pregnant, had a baby, was stillborn, right, and then had to deal with that. That was so probably tear those two apart so much that they ended up breaking up. They break up, and then I don't know how long after, but very soon after, I think they broke up in 99 and then 2001. So again, right in that transition of probably Matrix 1 to the sequel, right? She dies in a car accident. Wow. I mean, just right there, the system, and it all sounds like it's all within like a 10, 15 year span too, as he's really ramping up his career to superstardom and dialing in his craft so much. pretty fucking hardcore too. You add that to not raping and eating children. That's a stand-up fucking guy right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and by all accounts, he's been tagged as one of the nicest people in Hollywood, down to him staying in hotels and sending notes to the chef after a room service meal because he enjoyed his meal. Little things of going out of his way. There was once one person at the hotel. He gave $100 tip to just because they were talking and they were short in the rent. Right? It's just a nice guy. Said that he doesn't really care about money. That he's got enough money that it would take several lifetimes for him to really spend it all. So he just doesn't care about it so much. Very unique. He said I'm paraphrasing, just because I don't have it in front of me, but he said something along the lines of, our health is the most important thing. I can't spend my whole life worrying about the size of my bank account when the health, we all know that the health is one of the most important things that we have. So very interesting perspective to someone that is worth somewhere upward of $350 million.
You know, it's interesting too. I got to tap into this guy. Do we? I mean, he's such a nice guy. Is there a personal email or phone number? I feel like...
Hey, I'm struggling with my rent, buddy. My rent's about $250,000. It's a really nice place.
I'm like, hey, Keanu, Tesla just did a 5-in-1 split here. Could you load me about 25K? No, you know what? Let's go 50K. I need to take care of my family. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's so unique, bro. It's so unique. And that's what I don't think it really should be. I think it's sad that we have to talk about him. I honestly do. That this is like an extreme outlier. I haven't heard it. And there may be a couple other celebrities like this. I don't know. I've heard Steve Carell's a really fucking nice guy. Great. Fantastic. But yeah, the philanthropy aspect and the selfless giving that he does, and the recognition of we'll call them quote unquote, the smaller people, the common people out there that really probably just keep the wheels turning in show business anyways, like the special effects people, like the lighting people, all this stuff. It's great to see somebody actually recognize them and actually give them give them recognition in the form of some kind of reward instead of being like a Christian Bale, right? Did you see his video where he's like fucking yelling at the sound guy or whatever for getting like in the frame of the picture on the set of Terminator Salvation?
Yeah, and I've also seen a video of him like
Being a
raging
piece
at
of shit.
someone for chewing gum and not spitting it out or something. Like this guy, right? And he's definitely not like that. In fact, some of the crew members, I think it was on John Wick, said that he really went out of his way to stop and talk to everyone. He wanted to know everyone's name, and he stopped and talked out of genuine curiosity for what's going on with their life and what value they added as a person to his life.
You know, that's really crazy. And I got to give kudos to the guy, because when I'm trying to picture myself, I'm putting myself in Keanu's shoes and saying, would I do this? I'll be honest, probably not. You know what I mean? I would probably feel so consumed in what was going on or things I had to get done, and probably me more. And I'm just being honest here, right? Just me more of being the center of attention in that kind of just realm, that I probably wouldn't take the time. I wouldn't take the time to step back and breathe and realize there's other people there to that extent. The only way I would actually think that is you go ahead and pop me a couple pills of ecstasy. I'd be just like Keanu Reeves on that set. I would be walking around wanting to get to know everybody, rubbing their socks. You know what I mean? So there's that.
Well, and into my own introspection too, I'd probably be so hyper focused on the art and the performance that I wouldn't really, not that I'd be ignoring them, I would just be hyper focused, right? So that kind of speaks to his level of skill for his craft of acting over the last 35, 40 years, that he can give performances like he does while still taking time on set on his way to the set to stop and talk to a grip about some issue that they had, that they'd been working on the night before. You know what I mean? That's a really special person to be able to hold that many things at one point with your focus and attention and still produce on something that takes that kind of focus and expertise, like all of the John Wick stuff.
Don't sell yourself short. You can hold a lot of things at once too. They just happen to be testicles. So there's that.
I have a big mouth. I've always been accused of this.
No, but and that was a better way to state it too. I like because I think that's what I kind of meant too. Is I would be so consumed in what I was doing. You know what I mean? As the artist, I wouldn't have time for everybody else. Whereas he is so, I guess, self-aware to be able to see past that and just realize that there are other people that are probably very stressed out and very fucking focused on doing their job too. And their jobs are just as important as his at the end of the day. Like we're talking
Of course,
about.
they can't be done without any one piece of the puzzle, right?
So you guys I used to laugh at when I used to watch movies when I was a kid, key grips out there, you guys with the boom mics, kudos to you guys. I would have a sip of beer for you, but I'm out of Stella. So there's that. But
no one's there to text, you poor soul.
I know.
Hey, on the plus side, the hurricane moved a little bit farther east and did not go directly over my mother and father's house. So that was good.
This is very
they did once it kicked up to a category 4. They decided not to stay, and they left and they packed up their camper and they got out of the way for a couple of days and came back.
Where'd they go?
But they went to my aunt's house in McKinney, Northeast Dallas.
Okay, so just kind of get out of the track a little bit.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 hours away or something. So they bailed up there for a while and took the dogs, came back down, minimal damage, but it was scheduled to go right over their house. But it didn't track there and it moved a little bit further north. So big relief for a whole family. So
kudos. I like that.
I don't even think I told you about all that or the Stiffies, but we were concerned.
I knew your parents were in Texas, but honestly, I only vaguely knew where, and it's just such a big state. I wasn't sure if they were in any danger or not, but now I know.
Yeah, they live down by the Gators.
Good. That's good.
So
it's good to hear they're good to hear they're okay. I really like hearing that because I get freaked out a lot. I got a lot of family in Florida, and Jesus Christ, Florida is a place that gets slammed by multiple hurricanes every year too. And I'm always like, hey, is everybody all right? It's like, why don't you guys fucking move? I mean, seriously, that state is already shitty enough in my mind, and we got a lot of Florida listeners, which is interesting. That
we really do.
We keep bashing on Florida, and they just keep listening. Must be why they live in the state too, right? You know what I mean? It's like,
well, the response to that is probably like, have you ever spent a summer in Florida without a hurricane? That's why we live in Florida. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
I'm sure it's pretty epic to live down there in the summer where it's just like cherry.
Well, it's interesting too because, like I said, a lot of my family is down there. My cousins are down there, and they don't joke about it, but they always kind of take these hurricanes in stride because so many have happened, and they've never, knock on wood, never been affected really badly. You know what I mean? Or even the communities that they've lived in haven't been affected that badly. So I guess there's just key areas where you want to stay away from. I guess I don't know. I always wanted to live in Key West, though. I think Key West is a beautiful place, but man, if that place gets fucking directly hit by a hurricane, just later, dude, you have to have like an underground bunker. And how far underground can you go? Because you'll just be digging into water eventually.
Oh yeah, I think it's just you have to evacuate every time from there.
Yeah,
but luckily we've gotten much better with technology about warning and having ample like several days to get people up to speed and to prepare and evacuate and all of that.
This is true.
I think that Texas and Louisiana did a really good job of getting people out of harm's way for the most part, to really minimize like casualties from this one. So, and I don't know how we got sidetracked about hurricane. This isn't exactly a point of conversation for us today, but
that's okay. Your family should be a conversation, should be a topic if their lives were in danger. I mean, come on now, please. Now, but to redirect though, let's talk about a piece of shit. What do you think?
Sure. Which one? There's so many these days. I just don't know where to start.
I got a dartboard over here. Pieces of shit.
Are we getting on social media?
All right. And survey says we're going to talk about Jerry Fallwell Jr. That's what I landed on. You know what I'm talking about, baby.
Oh, that is special.
Roll it out, Bob. Come on. Everybody, if they don't know, they're going to know here in a minute.
Well, let's just back it on up to who the hell is Jerry Fallwell, right? So we should probably start there, right? So Jerry Fallwell was a televangelist, right?
Is it what's the difference? Is a televangelist and evangelical? Is one's on TV a lot, right? That makes sense.
Yes. So like, I forget the name of that dude. Anyway,
the piece of shit in Texas that wouldn't let people into his church, like during the hurricane.
I can't remember his name.
Oh, he's a famous one too.
I think it's the guy. I think that's the same guy. But anyway, I don't want to look it up on the show. But Jerry Fallwell was one of the original televangelists, right? So he raked
Hey.
in millions and millions of.
Hey, Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen.
Yes.
Yes. Just
Sorry,
like that guy.
I had to get it in there real quick. Go ahead.
So he raked in millions of dollars because, it's God's work. Anyway.
God wants him to. He wants him to have that brand new Cadillac. Excuse me, no Mercedes. Excuse me, no Lamborghini. Anyways,
But one thing he did do is he founded a legitimate college, the Liberty University.
Now, can I just interject real quick here? I would never want to go to this university. If I was a kid shopping around for universities, this is the last fucking place I would go. In fact, this is where they probably would send somebody like Ted and Bill and Ted to boarding school. Remember how his dad always wants to send him to military school?
Right.
Yeah. He'd be like, hey, if you don't fucking straighten up and send you to this piece of shit Liberty University, why is that, Bob? Tell us a little bit more about Liberty University.
Well, it's a Christian school.
That's scary enough stuff right there.
So it's not a Catholic school like Notre Dame, right? It's a Christian school because Fallwell is a Southern Baptist, which I know a lot of my family members are Southern Baptists. Whatever. I don't care about your denomination. So he started this school, and we've been running it since 67. Oh no, sorry, no, 71. So 71, he's had this school going. So Jerry Fallwell Jr. is his son. Well, his son started running it at some point in the last decade plus, and he's been running it for a long time. Interesting thing about Jerry Fallwell, he's been, he has said about his Liberty University, I do not attend here. I am not a pastor. I am not, a leader in the church community, essentially, but I do run this school, and I care about. I'm supposed to keep the academics up, and I'm supposed to keep the athletics up, and that's what I do at this school, right?
Sure.
Kind of defending some of the trouble he's got into in the last year or so.
Well, and to let the Stiffies know why I wouldn't go there is they got bans on gay people there. They don't let people hang out with to spend time with us, members of the opposite sex, after dark. Like everybody turns into sexual fucking vampires or something. That'd be kind of a cool movie. Ban students from drinking, even if they're of legal age too. It sounds like a bang up school where a lot of kids are really going to come into their, to their adulthood and with a bang. So that's why it sounds like it sucks to me.
Which is interesting considering the person running the school.
Yes, quite ironic, we would say.
So there's a lot of alleged things that are happening right now with Jerry Fallwell. First of all, there was some compromising photos from him and his wife that got him into some hot water. And then that opened up the story more and more and more. So obviously, whenever there's an expose, like half the time the New York Times is involved in a report.
Sure.
Right. They may be left-leaning on the reports they choose to do. They may be left-leaning on the verbiage of how they title things. We all know that. But
they may just be left-leaning, for Christ's sakes. Just say it, Bob.
One thing that they're pretty good at is sourcing their shit and having legitimate stories, whether they're presented bestly or unbiasedly or not. They are normally legit stories.
They cite their shit, but they do set things up and they create the language for the liberal narrative. I gotcha.
Yes. So keeping all of that in mind and how we kind of know the New York Times and their how they exist today, they did break a story about Jerry Fallwell Jr. And this story is allegedly for 8 years, Jerry Fallwell Jr., his wife, and a pool boy.
How fucking cliche is that? I just gotta say right now. I'm here to clean the pool and fuck your wife, bro.
We're allegedly in a 8-year relationship.
No, wait, hold on. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention because I tend to do that sometimes. Are we talking about a menage a trois, all three of them, or just the pool boy and the wife?
I don't know the details of the relationship as far as menage a trois or whatever. What I do know, allegedly, is that Jerry Fallwell Jr. would sit across the room in a chair and watch this young, virile man go to town on his wife.
Interesting.
And this relationship happened 8 years. Now, so this is some of the story that's given by this young man. I forget his name.
We'll just call him Tim the Pool Boy for all
Well, it's the
intents and
pool boy.
purposes.
It doesn't really matter.
Everybody has value when we're talking about Keanu Reeves. He's just the fucking pool boy.
So they met this this young man at a hotel, and he was the pool attendant there.
Hey.
So, and he was actually a student at FIU, going to school for business. And so, a couple years into this relationship with this young man, they want to help him out and invest in a business for him to provide an income for him, which has been, reported about their just relationship, whether sexual or not. They definitely had a relationship. That's not allegedly. They had a relationship, and including a business relationship. So him, the Fallwells, and the Fernandezes are
who the fuck are the Fernandezes?
They're a Miami father and son duo that were financiers on this business.
Now, so were they involved with the sex?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not that
I thought that story was going to get really juicy, but I'll dial it back. Go ahead.
So the Fernandezes and the Fallwells basically came together with their money to be all business partners with this young man. What was it, Galdan, something like that. Anyway,
I don't know.
And they opened up a hostel, which is how European, a gay-friendly hostel and / nightclub in Miami.
Now this sounds like it's right up Faldwell's alley, right? I mean, he's a televangelist type guy, very, 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 very beefy with God, and yet he's financing and part of a gay-friendly club in Miami.
Well, I mean,
sure.
If you want to go on the preacher's daughter, cliche, then yeah, it is kind of right up his alley. I mean,
he needs to get released somehow, right?
Yeah, this is like some Runspringer. So they have this whatever, and this club / hostel is going on for a few years, but then somehow, some way, anonymous, unnamed party gets involved in an extortion scheme with the Fallwells about some compromising pictures of his wife, him and his wife, the pool boy and his wife, whatever it is. At that point, Michael Cohen comes in to help broker a deal from the infamous, Trump's personal lawyer and fixer kind of that's Michael Cohen.
And when we have something shady going on, insert Trump influence. You know what I mean?
You have to have some sort of tie back to Trump. The interesting part about Cohen and how this was even found out was Tom Arnold.
Oh, he's a stand-up guy too.
So Tom Arnold, married to Roseanne Barr, that famous Tom Arnold. The guy
I love that's how his claim to fame too. He's like, I was married to somebody else famous.
Well, he also talked Austin Powers through a mean shit.
He did,
so
yeah.
Let's not discredit him. So he wasn't.
It's true.
A man of mystery. You bite your lip. Let's get through
in there, buddy. You can do this.
So
give it hell.
That Tom Arnold had a brief show. I think it was it Netflix? I don't remember. Yet it was in 8 episodes, and one of those episodes was, I guess he had talked to Michael Cohen. And I don't know if it was because of the show, or if he was on the show, or if it was just because of his show he ended up doing it. But either way, he ended up having an interview with Michael Cohen. I don't know if it hit air or not. And that's when he opened up about, I've had to go and help the Fallwells, rectify this extortion scheme with some compromising pictures of his wife. And so that's kind of how it was verified that Cohen did, in fact, help this, because the Fallwells have denied that any of this has ever happened, of course.
Interesting.
But
naturally,
I find it intriguing though that now he's no longer the, I don't know what you call the leader of a Christian school, the headmaster. I don't know, the dean. Anyway, sure. President. He's no longer involved in Liberty. He's on a indefinite leave of absence, which is a nice way to say you're fired.
You're fucking fired, Bob. Get your shit and get it out of the club. Empty your locker. You're gone.
Right.
I gotcha.
I just thought it was very interesting because of, it's just one of those things where in certain things, Christian leaders want to live the squeaky clean PR image of themselves and not acknowledge that they were human, right? And honestly, if this guy had a throuple with the pool boy for 8 years, I really wouldn't care. Do you run the school good? So I don't want to I don't care about who you're banging. I really don't.
This is true. I
So
agree.
it's kind of a shame that he got ran out of a school, and I guess it's because of the Christian values. But again, the risk you run if you're not a squeaky clean, perfect person like no one is, and you want to claim to be all the time, and then present that image to this Christian school and try to lie to people. But it is what it is. So now he's no longer running that school. So you'll see him next running like the University of Miami, and he'll fit right in.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense too. Jeez. Well, and that is interesting too, because that didn't really even touch on his recent pictures here and his drunk call in to the radio station.
No, enlighten us.
Well, it's fun. It's funny, right? I guess he's on vacation here with these pictures that he took down. Of course, he took these down, even though I'm looking at it right now. But now he's. And I don't know. You might know this. I don't know how much time elapsed before this happened. Is this very, very recent right here?
I think this is within the last couple of months.
Couple of months. He's on vacation. I guess it had to be pre-COVID, maybe, right? Or do they not care about that?
I don't think so. No, I think it was like recently.
Okay, so he's on. I think is he on and he's on a boat too, correct?
Yeah, he's on a friend's yacht.
A friend's yacht, vacationing, and naturally. I don't even know if his wife is there. I mean, she seems pretty kinky, so maybe she's, behind the scenes here, but he's hanging out with his wife's assistant, who seems to be maybe a month or two pregnant, where you can't really tell. But you have a lovely photograph of our boy here, Jerry, and his wife's assistant, this red hair, what have you. Not bad looking girl, but her pants are undone. Not down, but just undone, and his pants are undone. He's got a nice gut on him too. But this is pretty funny too, because first of all, his explanation to this is pretty fucking funny. One, why is her pants down or unbuttoned? Because she's pregnant. This makes sense, right? You never buy maternity clothes when you're pregnant, right, Bob? That never happens. You just keep wearing your same clothes, and you unbutton first, and then you zip down and pull them up, and eventually you just cut them open. It saves money, right? So that's
how sense. I do it.
Yeah, I mean that's how I did it when I got you pregnant.
I'm not pregnant, but I have that physique.
Exactly. And then Jerry, I guess just to be a nice guy, to kind of make her feel like she's not all by herself or what have you. He's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to wear some black jeans here that I bought in 1984 when I was a young man.
Oh, sorry to chime in. That picture was August 2nd.
Oh, okay. So, wow, this is right smack in the, right in the middle of COVID. So that's interesting. So that's another story. But again, we all know that he's a godly man, so God is protecting him from the virus. But his pants, sir, are way too small for him, apparently. So that's why his pants are undone. And that's how he justified this. He's like, well, why the fuck are my pants undone? Because they don't fit me anymore, obviously. So I decided to wear them as I go on my friend's lavish yacht and hang out with young women. So
every time I go and party on a yacht, I always bring pants from like 30 pounds ago.
Yeah, I do too. We were talking about this. There's nothing like wearing some really tight, uncomfortable pants as you're meeting new people and rubbing shoulders with, powerful, famous, young, beautiful people, right?
Well, to be fair, Scott, you never really know that moment when you'll hit your goal weight.
You never know. And it could be, you know what he was probably thinking? He could let out a big, nasty fart right here and literally give his diaphragm just that little squish in where all of a sudden, bam, pop. And then you can see that raging bulge in his pants that he's been missing for years in those jeans. His favorite jeans. They always made his bulge look good, right? So anyways, this is just fucking comical here. The picture is, I wouldn't say grotesque. It's fine, whatever. It looks like a couple people having fun, right? But it looks a little bit more than just people goofing around, which is, what have you. Again, where's his wife in this? I don't even know if you know about if she was on the yacht. I didn't really see anything about that at all.
She was in Miami.
Oh, wow. With the Fernandez kids, right? You know, with I see how she gets along.
Allegedly.
I like that. She went and got her some Hispanic flavor while he's messing around with Ginger over here from Gilligan's Island. So, okay, even funnier though, and I listened to this before the show, and I know you have too, is his attempt to call into the radio station and make an apology about this, right? So first thing he did was take down the picture on Twitter, because you know how it is. Once you take something off of Twitter, you can never find it again. Hence why I'm looking at it right now. And then his call in it's about a minute long, and it sounds like myself after I've had about, I don't know, 10 to 12 cocktails and probably smoked like a half a gram of hash. I mean, he sounds a little bit faded, we'll just say. And we talked about it. We don't know if it sounds like he could be drunk, but like we were saying earlier, it sounds like maybe a combo package, maybe a real fun little party, right? Maybe he fucking popped a few Vicodins or Oxycontins or what have you, had a couple of shots. Ooh, you know what's really fun is when you crush like an Oxycontin and throw it in a shot of whiskey and drink that together. Huh? Maybe that's what's going on there.
I can't say that I've ever done that, but
all right, no, Bob, neither have I.
I have never done OxyContin. I've never had it, never had it prescribed. I mean, I've heard about it. I've just never actually seen it like in real life. I just know that was like the Rush Limbaugh drug.
Yeah, me neither. Let's move on. So what I was going to say, but listening to this, he does sound like somebody that literally just got tuned the fuck up, which is interesting. I don't know. Has he claimed to be? You definitely know more about this guy than I do. Has he claimed to be a straight and narrow, kind of straight edge, sober guy? I don't fuck around with booze. I don't fuck around with weed. I don't fuck around with pills. Or
100%.
Is that kind of okay? So
drink.
Oh yeah, okay. Doesn't drink.
Even said that Crown and Coke looking glass in his hand in the pants unbuttoned picture was Blackwater. The Blackwater from Sprouts or whatever.
Sure. Because I'm always drinking Blackwater when I'm rolling around with my pants undone. This is all making a lot of sense. I don't know why we're even think it's a controversy at all. But again, the call in, he sounds like he's lit the fuck up. He's stumbling all over his words. And then he even says something that sounds like something you say as you kind of revert to being a child in the womb, almost like telling that his kids that he was sorry and that he promises that he was going to be a big boy moving forward. Who the fuck says this shit? Sound of mine. Oh my God. So that's just interesting right there. Guy's a real piece of work, man.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't quite understand why. I mean, he's not a Mormon or what is that? Latter-day Saints, LDS leader, right? I mean, he's Southern Baptist. I mean, why can't you say, I was having a cocktail in that picture. Whatever, what of it? Who cares? I live a good life. I'm a good person. I have good children. I make good decisions. Whatever. I don't get that part of it.
Yeah. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong. And I know I'm not, so I don't know why the fuck I said that. But Catholics, Baptists, whatever, they can drink, but it's a moderation thing. You should not be indulging in it, and you should not be drinking until you're completely inebriated. That's kind of their rule of thumb.
I'm just going to point out that Jesus drank wine.
He did, but he wasn't keg standing the shit. You know what I mean?
We don't know that. History's written by the victors. We don't know that. We don't know what was going down.
And yeah, I guess in that story, Jesus was not the victor. I guess the Romans.
It's like I'm gonna turn water into wine here
and pound this fucking shit.
Oh, you know what? An interesting picture. Jess showed me a picture, a meme of Keanu. That's why it's relevant. But it just said something like, "Explain this one, you non-believers," or something. But it was Keanu having lunch, sitting at a table, right? And he had a glass of wine next to a wine bottle full of water. It was just a red wine, glass of red wine, and a wine bottle full of clear water. I don't know. I just thought it was funny that if anyone could do it, it'd be Keanu.
This is true. The other thing about Mr. Fallwell here, again, we got to talk about this here. I love that. Allegedly, of course, always allegedly. You know how much that word has been fucking just thrown into our vocabularies. It's just been very interesting how much I've said the word alleged or allegedly. But something else too. Former people that have worked with him, he's very, very vocal, very boastful about his wife and other things and about his sexuality, which I think is very interesting too, especially for somebody, again, as such a God-fearing man. But I would say this just verbatim here. All he wanted to talk about, and this is the account from the alleged official that was with him, was how he would love to nail his wife, how she couldn't handle his penis size, and all sorts of stuff. And then also, he sent a picture. This is great. He sent a picture of his wife in a French maid's outfit to her personal trainer, kind of to thank him. Like, hey, bud, you did such a great job getting my wife in shape. Look how banging she looks in this French maid's
Which on the
outfit.
surface is fairly harmless. A little
Fairly
inappropriate,
harmless.
but that trainer probably has seen worse, right?
Right. But then when he hits send to all contacts in his phone or whatever he did and sends it to numerous people, I don't know if that was a slip of the thumb or what have you, or if he's just a really fucking freaky guy. So there is that. It says that he accidentally sent the picture to multiple people. Now, Bob, you have dick pics. You send them to me. Do you accidentally send them to your father at the same time?
Never.
I don't want well, that once, but my goodness.
No, and I just, he's on the gram. He uses social media. He's not 100 years old. He knows how to use text on his phone. I find it really hard to believe that, there wasn't a little bit of purpose behind that, but whatever.
It is what it
is. And the strange thing is that it's not just this Instagram picture that's got him into hot water, right? It's the story from the New York Times breaking about his sexual deviant lifestyle, which really, I mean,
well, it's compounding now.
What if he'd have just came out and owned it, right? Be like, yeah, I'm a cuck. I'm a cuckold man, and I like to watch young virile men bang my wife. It does it for me.
Hey.
Shame on you guys for caring about my sexual lifestyle. Y'all are the deviant ones that want to know what does it for me and my wife.
Yeah, it's his business. If he's doing that in the privacy of his own home and sending pictures to his associates and I guess just his acquaintances, apparently he just said. But yeah, that's totally up to him. He should have owned up to it, because now, like I was just saying too, this is compounding. You know what I mean? We've got scandal after scandal after scandal with this guy, and he's kind of dug himself a pretty big hole.
Plus now he's like, what, living in shame?
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't have to live in shame for how you decide to have sexual relations with your wife behind closed door. That's like the worst way to live, And so it is a shame that that's the approach that he's taking. He should just own it and be like, all right, guys, I probably shouldn't be running the church because I don't really believe in this, monogamy kind of normal stereotypical marriage that you guys believe in. I live my life a different way, and now you guys have found out. So I'll go run a different school with a little bit more open mind.
Yeah, much more open mind. Apparently, I don't think many universities are going to get behind a lot of that if it's kind of broadcast out there. But he's got a better shot if he owns up to it. And honestly, if he owns up to it, I think it's kind of like not a story. You know what I mean?
Right. If he owns up to it, he might not be in education anymore.
Yeah.
But he damn well could have a reality show.
He could have a reality show, or who knows? He may be in some voyeuristic type, multiple cast member type pornography films. You know what I mean? So there's that. If you like to watch your wife getting banged by somebody else, there's a market for that. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob, on that note, I'm getting thirsty. I've been out of beer for a minute.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of a shame. I think we moved a topic too many to the top.
Lesson fucking learned.
That's right. Earlier the better. Let's go grab one.
All right, buddy.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, it's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Hey.
Steady stream? Powerful?
It was. There was no dribble at the end or anything.
Good for you. I've got a little dribble here and there. I got to do a little shaking. I won't lie.
Oh, I'm not saying that that's all the time. I'm just saying in this instance.
Well, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you that it's 100%. That's good. That's really good. Now, I was just reading some stuff, as I tend to do when there's pictures, as you know about me. The Manhattan, really fun drink, and it's got some good history. This, we've talked about it before. This may be one of the older drinks for sure. Maybe one of the oldest ones with some rich history. I'm trying to think. What was the other really old ones that we've done? And the Hawal Banger was kind of old, right? Like early 1900s.
The old fashioned.
The old fashioned. Well, that makes sense. It's an old fashioned, right?
Yep.
First of all, first and foremost, before I get into a little bit of history here, because I did do some research. How we doing? Booyah!
Look at that. Look at that consistency. Let's go. Let's have a little sippy.
Sippy, sippy, sip. Now, I will tell you this. Yesterday, I did figure out this is not a drink to cavalierly have too many of. I'll tell you that right now. As I was doing research for the show, I started out a little late yesterday, just having some Stellas. You know, I had like 3 or 4 Stellas. Then, like I told you, dude, threw some fucking filet mignon on the Traeger. Fucking tits, bro. God damn, with some fucking like this nice pepper rub that we got, like a 5 pepper rub. Oh god, it's fucking so good. So I had that, and then I was like, let's start to get into the Manhattans. I had 3 Manhattans, and I was done for the night. I just cut myself off after that because I could already see, you know, where things could be going if I had
Now,
too many of these.
Curious, did you go rye or Canadian?
I'm glad you asked. I went Canadian.
I also went Canadian.
There
you go
we
Kirkland's?
go. I did.
Oh,
You know why I
nice.
did? Because it's the first time I purchased this one, but it looked, and I know how they do their game over there at Costco. I was like, this bottle looks suspiciously just like a Crown Royal bottle. I bet you it is Crown Royal with the Kirkland label slapped on it. So, yeah, it's pretty fucking good. And just so the Stiffies know, too, because this is a dank one. It's very, very good. I'm very, very pleased with this one. But
And by the size of that looks like a double.
oh, it is. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a healthy one. But
Yeah,
I went
Canadian.
Yeah, me too.
This is the Crown.
Nice. Good for you. You went legit, huh?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't dog on the legitimacy of a Kirkland booze product.
No, I wouldn't either. Again, it's probably the same fucking thing. But so everybody knows, you can make this with a few variations, meaning the type of whiskey that you use. Most notably, I guess, if you want to stick to the strict standard recipe, it's a rye whiskey. However, the Canadian whiskey became kind of the go-to, especially during Prohibition. And why? Because Canadian whiskey was so widely available during Prohibition. That's where a lot of whiskey was coming
That makes
from.
sense, yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I was reading, I was like, it says, okay, I got to get a rye whiskey. But then I read a little bit more. I was like, oh, I could get Canadian. I could even do a Tennessee whiskey. I could even use the Jack Daniels. That is still unopened at my bar, just so you know, from my fucking fumble of buying it about, 2 months ago now?
That is a damn shame. You need to fix that. That
Well,
sounds like a fun week.
I like how a handle of Jack is just a week for us. But yeah, what we're looking at here, guys, and I don't know what recipe you used. I tend to watch this, and I need to send this to you. I like to watch somebody make drinks, even if they're very easy, to see how they make them. And I've been watching this guy. I think he's an Australian bartender that has his own YouTube channel that does a really good job. But
Is that the larger dude?
Yeah. I think you've
Okay.
seen a couple of his videos. But he does. It's a double shot of whiskey, which I was like, oh, I like this guy.
Mhm.
Double shot of whiskey, a shot of sweet vermouth, and 2 to 3 dashes of bitters, and that's not in a shaker. You stir it with the nice little bartender spoon that we have. Shake that in a little cup with ice for 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds, and then I finally got to use that little strainer thing that came with our bar set. I was like, this is fucking fun. Use the strainer, but before I put it into the, let's call it a martini glass, 2 Marciano cherries. I like 2. And then, it gives it that nice reddish color too with the cherries in there. It's really phenomenal, dude. So again, you can use
it's a great drink, and don't let it fool you. This is not a dainty drink or a drink for the tenant boozer.
No,
This is an aficionado drink.
This is right up there with a rusty nail, an Italian stallion, and old fashioned. This is a
Yes, there's no real mixers in there. This is a straight glass of whiskey. I mean,
yeah, pretty much with some vermouth, which is still 16% alcohol. But
and very little.
yeah, I mean, a shot versus 2 shots. I mean, it's basically there to give it a little sweetened flavor. You know what I mean? Give it a little sweetness to it, but still with some booze in it. Love it. But to give you a little history on this, I thought it was kind of cool that this is the popular lore of where it came from. I don't think this is true, but I thought it was pretty interesting. And if you saw my Instagram post yesterday and Facebook post about the drink, I had a quote on there. Did you bother to look that up?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I saw that. I wasn't on social media much this weekend.
Okay. Well, if you get a chance, check it out. I do have a quote from somebody on there, and it's in relation to this story. So essentially, this is how they say that it was created. Back in mid 1870s, there was the Manhattan Club in New York City, which makes sense, right? They're hosting a banquet for Jeannie Jerome. Jeannie Jerome is Lady Randolph Churchill, Winston Churchill's mother. And she was there supporting at the time the Democratic candidate for president, Samuel Tidwell. Now, what's really interesting about Samuel Tidwell is he lost to Rutherford B. Hayes, right? He lost there. But this is the first time, and it's a short time for American history, this is the first time that the guy that lost, Tidwell, won the popular vote, but lost the election. Sound familiar?
That's happened a few times.
Yeah, but this was the first time it happened in 1876. So that was pretty interesting. But the reason why they don't think, because apparently what happened is it was a very notable kind of little banquet that was held for Lady Randolph, Churchill, already pretty famous person, all this good stuff. But the reason why they think it's fabricated is at this time, Lady Randolph was actually in France and she was pregnant. So they don't really think that really happened. So whatever. But I thought it was a pretty interesting story. Anyway, the quote that I put on there is from Winston Churchill. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, but beyond that, they got a little bit more to it. I thought that was even better because the other story is that variations of this cocktail was made in a bar in the Manhattan area by a bartender simply named, like Madonna or Prince, his name was Black. That was his name. It doesn't even have any reference to this gentleman. It just says by a bartender named Black. I was like, okay, cool. So apparently some guy named Black, anonymous, made this drink in the mid 1860s, about 10 years earlier, in a Manhattan bar, and it got pretty catchy in the Manhattan area. Hence, it pulled the name the Manhattan. So that much is true. It was made in the Manhattan area in a nice club or bar.
Well, it's a solid drink, and I'm glad to have it in the arsenal.
I'll tell you what. This is one I'm probably going to when I'm just sitting there, bored, when I have almost that paralysis, anxiety of what to make at the bar. Cause as you know, like you were saying, top of your fridge, my bar, it's like, dude, what do I make here? And then I usually just make something really generic. This is one where it's simple enough. It's dank enough where it might become a regular on the old Rolodex there. You know what I mean? This is for sure.
Yeah. I'd never had one before today. I did not do much research for this show in the traditional sense. I don't know what I was doing this weekend, but apparently it was not anything productive for the show.
Huh. Well, shit happens. Life happens, Bob. I don't hold it against you. The really interesting thing, and this is how much of a piece of shit I am. I totally forgot this because I'm telling Jamie. First of all, she gave me the idea for this drink weeks ago when I was trying to come up with a drink for the show. She's like, Manhattan. I was like, yeah, but it doesn't make sense for this show because, we try to sometimes tie them in, theme them with what we're talking about for conspiracies, stiff truth. But double back to it this week because we had brought it up, and I was like, let's go ahead and do this. And I was going to get the stuff and talking about making them up, and Jamie's like, I'm telling her about the drink I know she knows about them, but I don't know the depth of them. She's like, yeah, no, this is one of my favorite drinks. She's like, it was our signature drink at our wedding, Scott. And I was like, whoops, whoopsie. I was like, yeah, and I totally forgot that. And then I remembered, I was like, I thought she said.
Well, it was a long time ago, man.
It was 10 years ago, almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in this October. So we're circling up on 10 years pretty quick. But yeah, my memory's not that good. There's been a lot of marijuana, a lot of booze that has gone into this body that's fried a little bit of brain cells. But what I do remember is I thought she said, hey, I really like Manhattan, so let's make it the signature drink because not that many people like them. So we won't have to go through too many or something like that. And that's what I recalled. I didn't really recall that it was one of her favorite drinks. And I kind of don't even really recall that it was our signature drink. But, she rang my bell, the memory bell a little bit. Now I remember, lesson learned. Don't forget stuff about your wedding, kids.
Yeah, write it down.
Especially the kids. You write that down, kids, because it's always about the kids. And I
Hey,
don't
hey,
want
both
them
of my
fumbling
kids were
around.
at my wedding because we're very religious.
Good for you. Good for you, sir. Oh my
Anyway,
God.
yeah, Manhattan, very good drink. I look forward to having many more in the
Now,
future.
let me ask you this, Bob, because we've done, and some of them are like our run of the mill stuff. When we started the show, we kind of did what we know, right? And we started with some pretty basic stuff. But as we've started to dive into the little bit more of the actual drinks, actual cocktails, and more in depth here, what has been your favorite so far? Maybe not what you like to make the most at the house, because that really probably boils down to what you have sometimes. Maybe it is, but just tell me. I just want to know. After 30 episodes, what's your favorite cocktail we've made?
Well, it's kind of different based off of situation and feel, right? If we're outside at the pool and it's summery and
Let me guess. Let me guess. It's a Mai Tai, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
if I'm like looking to actually like throw down on a very tasty beverage real quick and cooled off and enjoy that, then yeah, the Mai Tai is up there, man. Mai Tais are great.
Mhm.
But as far as the other drinks go, just for hanging out and sipping and chilling out or reading a book or chilling in the living room in the evening or whatever,
Sure.
there's several that kind of are the go-tos, right? There's a very close thing between the rusty nail and um, the Italian version of the rusty nail.
The Italian stallion,
Some
baby.
Galliano and Scotch. Very good. I leaning towards the Galliano to win that war, but I'm still partial to a good, freshly made old fashioned.
Nice.
I
Nice.
think that's one of my favorite drinks. Other than that, I would say just for sipping and for not having to put in a whole lot of work or whatever, and you get the stuff out, and that's kind of the direction you go. I really like freshly made whiskey sours with homemade simple syrup, fresh squeezed lemons, like really get in there, and that's a fantastic drink.
See, I love how you've gotten into that. I do love that. And I feel kind of like an asshole when I start pouring my fucking Mr. T sour mix into my whiskey sours now that I know that
Just don't do it, dude. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Just get lemons and some sugar and just like whip it up, man. It's worth
Just
it.
get it done. Well, I will say after here, just tangling, just getting involved with a lot of different drinks here, I got a little difference of opinion. I will say this. I think we're on the same page. If we go with the Rusty Nail Italian Stallion battle, Italian Stallion does take the cake for me. I actually had a couple of those the other night as the nightcap for the evening. And
Galliano is just a little bit better than Drambuie.
it really just is, dude. Now, you know what I did as an epic fail? I don't
And
know
a
what
little bit stronger.
Yeah. And this was an epic fail. I tried to do the Rusty Nail kind of Galliano, that combo with Benedictine and Scotch.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Not so good, dude. I tried it out and I was like, well, this is strong as fuck because it's like 40% alcohol, the Benedictine, but I was like, it's really not ringing my bell. So I will agree with you. The Italian Stallion is my kind of sipping, chilling, kind of relaxing drink. If I want a nice punch, right there. But surprisingly, dude, for fun to mix up and not that difficult, I really love a Harvey Wallbanger. I really love that Harvey Wallbanger. I'm a Galliano fan, I think is what it comes down to.
I am too. I
Yeah.
really like it. The other day, in fact, I posted pictures of it. I was like, you know what? I feel like having a Jaeger bomb, but I'm feeling classy. I'm going to have Galliano bombs, right? And so, and then the more I think about that, I think that's just going to be my Italian car bomb.
Yeah. I was like, you're such a douchey piece of shit. No, that's great though. I love it. That's really, and I think I even texted you there too. I was like, man, that's a pricey fucking bomb right there. But that's how good the Galliano is, man.
Well,
now,
Galliano is 43%. So it's strong. Jaeger's only 35. So it's stronger than Jaeger, and it tastes better than Jaeger.
It really does. It really does. And it's
funny. It feels good to pour out of that crazy bottle.
I will tell you this too, because it is an expensive bottle. That's a tricky bottle to pour too. Sometimes, depending on where you're holding it on the neck, it can come out too fast. You're like, whoa, it's too much.
Yeah, you can't do it right at the tip of the bottle like you would in most bottles. You got to give yourself a little bit more leverage, or it's like holding a sledgehammer by the end of the handle. You got to
So
like go halfway down a little bit.
So you're saying not go to the tip, but go down the shaft a little bit? Is that where the money's?
Midway. You don't want to go down to the base.
No,
But
no,
you
no,
don't
no,
want
no.
you don't want to hold it by the tip. You got to hold a firm grip mid shaft.
Ah, that's great advice, Bob. Great advice. Well, hey, I'll tell you this, though. This, I think, may be added into that mix of simple to make, dank drink, and very tasty, dude. Let's face it. This is probably the best way to enjoy Canadian whiskey that I've dabbled into.
Yeah, it's up there. I do got to say that I love our alcohol journey that we've been on through this
Yes.
show.
Mhm.
And I hope that you Stiffies out there really do enjoy it too. And I really do hope that you take advantage of the drinks and the recipes listed on the website. I really try to keep it up to date as much as I can. Oftentimes I'm 2 or 3 drinks behind. But if you guys ever do, want something specific, just shoot us an email or message us.
Yeah.
We'll give you any sort of alcohol advice that we have.
Bobby's usually 2 or 3 drinks behind on the website because he's usually 2 or 3 drinks in on something. So it's hard to. I get it. You know what? I'm just going to call out a Stiffy right now too, because Mr. Mike Lenz. All right.
Mikey.
Yeah, I need you to get in here, bud, and I need you to give us feedback on your favorite cocktail. And guess what? If you haven't dabbled like we've asked the Stiffies to, that's okay. But get out there and get yourself a drink that's on the website. And I want to hear this feedback. And I want to hear it after you listen to this show. I don't ask a lot.
I would also like for you guys to point out exotic drinks or even simple drinks that we are just glaringly omitting and that just keeps bugging you guys. Please give us drink ideas. We are so into trying your drinks. And I'm talking to you, Mr. French Stiffy. I'm sure you got some drinks over there that we wouldn't necessarily think of at the top of our head here in the States. So please feel free.
I definitely would love to just dive into some froggy drinks, dude. So kudos, bud. Let's get in there.
Speaking of getting in there, the RNC Convention happened this past week.
Bob, that was great, by the
way. And there was some, and so I try to be as objective as I possibly can.
You fail sometimes, but you try.
I do fail sometimes, but I do try. One of the things that I find kind of appalling was when I saw the seating arrangements, the big screens, the light towers, the stage, sitting in front of the White House lawn. It wasn't quite throwing up in my mouth a little bit, but it definitely was unsavory. I just did not like that use of the White House. It almost seemed disrespectful for me to trounce that many people all over the lawn in front of it. Just everything. It rubbed me the wrong way.
Now, I'll say this. Difference of opinion here a little bit. I just got to say, I don't disagree with you 100%, but I did think that it was a beautiful backdrop for a very good speech. With that being said, I don't think a very good speech by the president was given. That's all I got to say. If you take out the screens and you have all those American flags right in front of the White House and you've got a tight group of people there, and it's a president that I am back 120%, that I absolutely love this guy, is right for that, I'd be okay with it. I would be okay with it. But since it was our boy, President Donnie Trump, it seemed a little bit like a show.
Well, he had an opportunity to fuck shit up right there. Like, he could have gone out there and crushed it. He could have gone out there and spent 2 or 3 weeks preparing the speech and practicing the speech, canceling events, like getting ready to throw down in this speech like most politicians would for something like that. Or just most speakers would for an hour-long speak like that.
This is why we love him, because he's not a politician.
Well, he used to not be, but after 4 years of presidency, you don't become any more of a politician.
This is true. This is true.
But he had that opportunity to go out there with that backdrop and Reagan that shit. Like he could have gone out there and just laid something down, reached out to the other side of the aisle and some things. Like he could have really tried to capture votes right there, which should be the idea of the Democratic or the Republican National Convention. You're not really there talking to your party members. They're going to vote for you. You're there trying to get votes on the other side. It's a big spectacle. You're trying to make it as grand as you possibly can to try to pull those other on the fence voters your way. And I think he had the opportunity to do that. I think, though, because of his typical unprepared nature and not
and his
taking it
character
seriously,
You know
that
what I mean?
it was a swing and a miss, and it felt kind of flat.
Yeah, well, and here's what happened, dude. I will say this. I must give credit to almost everybody else that spoke. Almost everybody else. There's some outliers where you're like, okay, you're kind of a piece of shit anyways. There was some good speakers there. There were some good speakers. I actually wrote them down, the people that I liked a lot. However, you're absolutely right. He had the opportunity to really swing and fucking knock a home run with independents, people on the fence. Hell, even some Democrats that are sick of what's going on in the Democratic Party, too. There's actually a decent amount of them. You know what I mean? To where it's going right now, it's going a little bit extreme to the left. So he could have taken the opportunity to, and here's what he could have done. This is the biggest thing, and I'm sure you'll agree with me here. There could have been a lot of, we have been able to do this. We will be able to do this. And if we unite, we will be able to overcome this. There could have been that way of thinking and that perspective, but there was a lot of, I did, fucking over and over again. And it was just him patting himself on the back about all these things. Now, granted, some of the things he's done for the country have been very positive. I'm not going to discredit the man for that. And again, what the DNC tried to do, saying that, look, now we're in this economic depression, almost like Trump created the economic depression. That's not true. He actually did have one of the best fucking economies. Granted, and whether or not it has anything to do with the Obama presidency's trajectory or not, he didn't drop the ball. He was past the torch and he took it to a higher level. But the pandemic, happened. Boom. Nobody, and I'm going to say this now, nobody that was in office, nobody that could be in office, Hillary would be the only fucking other option. If this thing hit like it did and affected the entire fucking world and shut down the entire world, she would not be in an economic surplus during the fucking, pandemic. That's horse shit. But for him to literally take all the credit for everything personally and barely even talk about his administration and his team, right? I think he gave a couple of nods
for that matter.
Yeah, he gave a couple of nods to Mike Pence, a couple of nods to a couple of people, which great, that's fantastic. But yeah, on a whole, it was 70 minutes, and I watched the whole goddamn thing, and I had to have 3 Stella. I think I had 3 Stellas during it. But it was unfortunately a lot of rah to his base, right? And that's pretty much the people that were there too, which is fine, which is totally fine. But I think he missed the point, and I'm really disappointed in not his administration, but the people that are right now working his campaign. You know what I mean? I'm really disappointed that they didn't write the fucking speech for him, which is fine. They should. Goddamn well that Joe Biden wrote his speech, but he had probably 100 people amend
Well,
that
he's
fucking
also
thing.
got 47 years of fucking politics and speech writing and practice.
Yeah,
and
but
he's refined, and that he understood what that moment was, and
Right.
so he prepared for it as much as he possibly could have. I don't think Trump, being new to politics, quite understood what his opportunities were at that moment.
Well, and that's why I say shame on his campaign managers. Right. You know what I mean? Because they could have looked at that and be like, no, Trump, this is not like fucking one of your press conferences that you do every other week, dude. You're not tweeting something. This is your opportunity to actually get votes. And you can literally go out there and grab independents right now if you do this the right way.
And Democrats.
Exactly.
There. He grabbed them in 2016.
Yeah, they're there for the taking, and unfortunately, we'll see what happens. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen. Polls don't say anything to me because I think there's a lot of people that just don't tell pollster stuff, right? That are on the fence. But yeah, that did. Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised, Bob. I'll say that, because this is what I expect from Trump.
Right.
But I was hoping that he would use this opportunity to prove me wrong. Again, I'm one of those guys. I'm not a hardcore Trump fan, but I'm also not going to sit here and say I'm going to shit on the president and hope he fails at everything. That would be an injustice to my country and my community.
We fail.
Exactly, right? So again, I know that whatever path he goes down, it's going to trickle down to me in some way, shape, or form. And I hope the best for the guy, and I hope the best for why he's in the office at least.
Well, let's rewind it back to day one, right? Let's go back to day one.
Okay, so
right?
I'm really scared. I pop out of my mom. I'm crying a lot. I'm sticky. There's a guy.
Okay. Let's go back to Monday.
Okay. So I wake up in a pool of my own vomit. There's an empty booze bottle. There's chickens on my penis. Wait. Okay. Wrong.
So Tim Scott
You're just like, Tim Scott did a great job. He did a great job.
crushed it. He totally day one might have been their best day. It was really good. He ended it really strong. He did understand what was happening. He did try to appeal across the aisle on some issues. He just came through very well spoken. He gave his history, why you should support Trump, even though he's black and he by all means should be a Democrat, right? But he explained a little bit of that in his speech, and it was really well done. And partisan politics aside, he owned that speech and he knocked it out of the park.
I will say that too. And speaking on the same vein there too, Vernon Jones actually did a good job too. If you saw him, he's actually a representative, House of Representative Democrat in Georgia, who was there to speak on Trump's behalf. And again, somebody that I get it. If he's actually someone like yourself, right? Somebody that's more of a moderate type a Democrat. If you're looking at where the party's going right now and you do have a choice, there's a certain number of them that may say, you know what, fuck this. You know what I mean? And I did like his speech too, because he even said in his speech too, it's like, you know what, I've taken a lot of shit, for my stance. And when I decided to back up, President Trump, I've been asked to leave my party. I mean, this is a lot of things that people don't usually do when they're very partisan. You know what I mean? For anybody, and John Kasich did it on the other end of the table for the DNC. But honestly, let's face it, John Kasich was a fucking piece of shit loser in 2016.
He's also got a pretty heavy axe to grind with Trump.
And that's the other thing that I'm saying is he has a grudge and he was trying to be vindictive. To whereas what Vernon Jones did was, I think, just he was going with what he thought was right. And unfortunately, he believes in the duopoly, so he went with Trump, and he knows that nobody else can win, so might as well go for somebody that he believes in more than his own party, which is fine. I think there was some good speeches there, dude. The one thing, we already talked about it, Maximo Alvarez, tits.
It's probably the best speech of the RNC.
Yeah, I think that one, if that one didn't grab you and give you a little check on where things could possibly be going, like we talked about, socialism, democratic socialism, whatever you want to fucking dress it up as and put cherries on top of it, the way of big government, more power to a certain group of people and less say of individual states, less say of private corporations, it can be a very slippery slope. So I think he really highlighted what the RNC should be highlighting about what's going on right now. Is like, hey, the biggest danger of this is not really Joe Biden. It's when Joe Biden gets in office potentially and he gets pushed out of the way, and he is that Trojan horse for the extreme fucking left that, let's face it, a lot of the country doesn't want in there, or else they would have fucking voted Bernie Sanders instead of Joe Biden, right?
Again and again, you keep seeing that the moderate Democrats prevail. And I explained this phenomenon. I've explained to my son I think it was just yesterday, where I was explaining, you have these progressive democratic socialists on the left, right? And you have these alt-righters on the right. And if you just hopped on Facebook for a day, you would think, oh my God, it is so crazy. But really, they represent such a small percentage of America. They're just the loudest, and they're really well attuned to how to utilize social media to get on those platforms and magnify their voice. But realistically, the majority of the country doesn't really swing in those directions. We're very much more towards the center. And those are, so the silent majority that you hear so much isn't a silent majority of Trump. What it is it's a silent majority of moderate Democrat to moderate conservative Americans that aren't out there on Facebook every day arguing with people about nothing. You know what I mean? Those are the guys that are, not even on Facebook hardly ever, unless it's to post a picture of their barbecue or something like that, right?
Sure.
And then they go to the polls and their voice is heard at the polls.
Yeah.
So I think that's what people tend to forget, and they get blindsided by all of this rhetoric from the far left and the far right, and really, that's not an accurate representation at all. And if it were, then fucking polls would be more accurate.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, dude. But yeah, no, I think I think that was the best thing that the RNC did right there is bring Maximo on the stage, because
That was powerful.
he literally pointed out, and what you're saying, that small but very loud voice of the left is actually the people that are starting to be comprised as Joe Biden's like cabinet and advisors. So there's that too. And whatever, I'm sure there's people that would disagree with me, but I've heard things, I've seen things, and I think that was a good move. Now, the other things that I thought were really good, Herschel Walker, I liked him being in there. He's always good. But also too, did you see Jack Brewer in there?
No.
You didn't see that? That was another good one too. Again, this is somebody that has been a lifelong Democrat, and Jack Brewer, ex-NFL guy, what is he now? Now he like teaches in prisons and shit like that now. He's a really good guy, but he's a very religious guy, very family-oriented guy. That was a pretty good short speech. And then the girl from Baltimore, Kim is it? I want to say Clackick or something. I can't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about? Younger girl, late 30s. Kim, what's her? I can't even remember how to say her name, honestly. I didn't write this one down. But she only had like a couple of minutes. But again,
Kim Classic. CIK.
Yeah, something like Kim Classic, something like that. But again, most of these people, again, were African Americans, which is fine. But to see the perspective coming from heavily Democratic areas and them going against the grain, I think they did really good speeches. I think they did really good speeches. Beyond that, here's the other thing I found kind of it's disgusting, the word I want to use, but Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Have you ever seen any type of convention where everybody in this man's goddamn family got up and said something?
It was very weird that every day was featuring a new Trump immediate family member.
Yeah, you had his daughter, which honestly, Ivanka, right? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Ivanka. I didn't even listen to her speech. She's just beautiful. But outside of that, you had Eric, you had Donnie Jr., you had his Eric's wife, you had your favorite, Kimberly Guilfoyle, like you had her get out there. You had Kimberly Trump, who I never even fucking heard of. Apparently his only daughter from his second wife, in the mid-90s or whatever, get out there and talk to. I mean, literally, I had a hard time after a while watching my father, and our I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, I get that you back up your dad, but that's not really saying much. You got family values. Good for you. But that was kind of disgusting to me. And I get it. The ones that are in, like his daughter, Ivanka, Eric, Don Jr., they should probably speak because they're actually involved in his administration in some way, shape, or form. Jared Kushner, did he even get up and say anything? No, I don't think he did.
He wasn't invited to speak, which is funny because he's probably like his closest advisor that actually does things.
Yeah, but what's very weird is he's the one that's married to Ivanka, and Trump is quoted saying that he would be dating her if he wasn't her daughter.
Right. Very strange things that he said about Ivanka. And Eric's speech was, it was, I love my dad, vote for him. That's fine.
That's cool. Whatever.
Don Jr.'s speech was a little bit different.
Go ahead.
A little bit more impassioned, a little bit more angry.
A little bit of this. Yeah.
A little bit more. When I watched it, I said to Jess, why are his eyes so glassy and he can barely hold them open? Like, what's going on with this guy? It's very odd. It almost looks like he did like a big ol' rail before this speech.
Well, we talked about this too. I think that him and his partner may have both indulged in some cocaina. And she took one route and he took the other route. You know what I mean? He got nervous, got a little clammed up, and she got the God complex. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, I got to say, Kimberly Guilfoyle's speech would have like been great in like the 30s. Like,
for Nazi Germany.
like I could like almost hear her, like if she was in front of an actual like heavy Trump crowd of thousands, it would have played really well. I mean, as far as public speaking goes, she did great, but over the top, like it went over the top. And the fact that she was in an empty building that was large, it echoed, and it made it a little bit creepy. But having said that,
I mean, she got into it though, bro. She did.
it gave the Stiff Truth an opportunity, though, to take that speech and combine it with the speech from the potential gang leader in
Cyrus.
the Warriors.
Yeah, Cyrus, I think.
Cyrus.
Yeah.
Okay. And
that was classic,
and really make a great post, which was our most viewed post on Twitter. So we got something out of it.
Bob, you're a humble fucking guy. The Stiff Truth as a partnership had nothing to do with that. That was all you. And this is what I love about you not having school going on right now. That's all I got to say. This is all Bobby. He is watching this. He got the vibe. He's seen the Warriors. He put 2 and 2 together. Who's up there fucking commanding the room and yelling at everybody at the top of their lungs? Cyrus is. It's a beautiful thing.
Well,
Stiffies, if you haven't seen it, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, it's everywhere. Get on there and check it out.
When I'm thinking about it the next day, I'm just like, how can I use this? Because it's funny. There's a funny way for me to use this. And then all I can think of as I'm watching just the ending over and over and over. And all I can think of is, can you dig it over and over? And I was like, I gotta do it. I do. And honestly, I've probably watched that thing like 60 times myself. And it's just hilarious. It makes me giggle every fucking time.
And I got to give the Stiffies a little bit more context here. I thought it was pretty funny because did you make it on Wednesday or Thursday? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
But it was funny because I'm working away. I actually do work. I was pretty busy, and I keep getting texts from Bob, and he's like, "Hey, you got to check this out. You got to check this out. Check this out." You know, and I was like, "What's going on?" And then you were saying, "It's like it's great. I can't stop laughing." It's like when I made it, I even cried a little bit. It's like I didn't know exactly what was going on until I watched it, but I did the same thing. I watched it about 5 to 10 times. I showed it to Jamie more times than probably she wanted to see it. I was like, check it out. Yeah, you know what that's from, right? And she's like, yeah, no, I get it. It's funny. But it's your best work, Bob. It's your best work to date.
It was really funny and surprisingly actually took a lot of work.
I don't doubt you. I don't doubt you at all because again, Jamie even like was surprised last night when we were talking about it again. It's like, so no, Bob actually made that? Like not just what we usually do.
Yeah, I didn't share that. I created.
Yeah, I was like, no,
and
Bob made it
because I had to go to like C-SPAN and create an account and like get access to the download, and there's like a big process for me to get a legitimate copy of that file like legally so that I could then make it. Will they come back at me and say, hey, you still broke some copyright infringement and need a license? Maybe, but if they do, the version that I would need is only $100. So if so, I'll just pay the $100 and keep the license for it.
Well, if they come out, you just say, hey, fuck off. Can you dig it?
So funny. But other than that, the Republican convention was good. I think they missed the opportunity for it to be great. For it to really, like, especially with Trump's numbers and just kind of the downward swing he's had in the last several months, probably since March or whatever, he really had an opportunity here to play a lot of catch up. And I don't know if he maximized that opportunity.
Let's say this. And again, no, I'm not, I hope that, I bet the Stiffies know this. I do support probably Trump more than I bashed him. I think the convention was fantastic if you take Trump and his children out of the picture.
Yeah. It's much better then, right?
Yeah. If you take them out of the picture, every speech is thoughtful, it's heartfelt, it's empathetic, it has a lot of impact. Rand Paul, until almost the very end of his speech, didn't even mention Joe Biden. You know what I mean? It was all about the positives. I was like, hey, this is going, and I almost was writing down. I was like, I don't think he mentioned, and then finally at the end, he did mention Biden. I was like, okay, I get it. You got to kind of do that eventually. But all of it was very, very good up until they trickled in the family. You know what I mean?
Fun fact about Trump's speech, his 70-minute speech. He mentioned Biden 40 times. So if you do the math there, I'm no Andrew Yang, but that means he averaged a little somewhere around mentioning Biden's name once every 80 seconds throughout that speech. A little bit much. It should have been more about Trump, like what we are going to do.
Don't get me wrong. Again, take the we out of there, but it was either Biden or me. Biden or me. And to me, it was just a little bit of typical Trump. I was like, dude, pat yourself on the back in the privacy of your own fucking home for a minute. And let's get everybody excited about the country.
I also think he missed the chance to like really give the Senate more credit and give McConnell more credit, because
I gotta shout out to my boy Mitch McConnell. I just gotta give him a shout out.
the Republican-controlled Senate has had President Trump's back like no other. Like they have just really taken on the brunt of a lot of issues and stood there and had his back on a lot of issues. And to hear him go with the me stuff is a little bit disheartening, because man, that is a total we effort there, especially in 2018 when the Democrats took the House and Pelosi's onslaught since then, and you still had McConnell standing firm with the Senate, getting his back, doing everything that I possibly can, but he still goes out there and it's me.
Yeah, well, again, not surprised. You know what I mean? This is kind of his MO. But and you mentioned Pelosi, and I just had a flashback of last episode. I said something about Pelosi, and I said I would double back on her. I can't watch her speak. This is a total tangent, but I feel like I owe it to everybody. Her dentures and the way she moves her mouth, dude, it fucking makes me uncomfortable. It starts to make my skin crawl, and I don't know what it is, but when she speaks and it starts doing this number and like fucking, I can't quite fucking finish her sentences without sounding like a saliva-based old woman. She needs to sit down, dude. She needs to sit down. Well, she's got to be like close to 80, right?
She's 79.
Close to, that's pretty. I'm no Andrew Yang.
Well, and honestly, she has money. Why doesn't she just get like permanent fucking implants and be done with it?
Oh, dude, it looks like her fucking teeth are swimming in her fucking gums.
I keep waiting for the day she sneezes and like her bottom teeth fly at the camera.
Dude, I'm sitting there like staring at her, like waiting for this shit to happen. To her, like, oh God. Because my great grandfather, I remember he used to do that shit when I was a little kid. He used to like pop out his bottom teeth just to freak me out, and I'd run away. That's crazy. I'm waiting for it with her, dude. I'm just like, dude, Jesus Christ, keep them in your mouth.
Fun personal stories for you and the Stiffies that you've never heard. So I am, I think, 11 or 12 years old, and I'm eating some.
Bob, you're 40.
I know.
Oh.
So this is a long time ago.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right?
I'm on the same page now.
During the Bush administration.
I thought you were going to say
Bush 42.
Yeah.
Right? 42.
George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yes. So I'm sitting there. We're living in Rockwall, Texas, and
Good old Rockwell.
my grandma's down. She's living with us for some medical reasons. So she's living with us, and
breast implants.
I'm eating like mashed potatoes and hamburger helper.
Oh God,
good old white trash food.
I used to. I used to tear up hamburger helper in the 80s. I think that kept us alive. Anyways, continue.
So I'm eating this, right? And then my 2-year-old mammal is next to me, right? And she coughs, and her dentures fly out of her mouth onto my mashed potatoes.
Oh, and you ate them.
End of dinner. I started crying. My poor mammal probably felt so bad. And I'm 11 or 12 years old, crying and like running away from the table like Anna Faris in Scary Movie, with her hands up, flailing out the room. Oh, it's so gross. Anyway, that's the kind of scene I expect every time I see Nancy Pelosi speak. I'm expecting some sort of bodily function to happen, like a cough, sneeze, or fart, and a fucking denture just flies at the camera like a 3D movie, like Piranha 3D or something.
Well, you're 100%. Thanks for sharing that too, because that's a good story too.
You're
And
welcome.
I have to imagine too that, yeah, that's pretty intense. That's pretty intense, because I'm thinking the same thing when I'm watching Pelosi. And the other thing that trips me out when I'm watching Pelosi, besides the dentures almost falling out of her mouth as she tries to keep them in with every fucking word she says, she's like trying to like wrestle them in there. But the other thing too is she has that nasty, and we both know this too, meaning we've seen people like it. But she also sounds like she just smoked a huge bubble of speed or something like that, and she's got that dry mouth fucking kind of sound smacking going on too. With that going on, it's disgusting, bro. It's hard to watch. Like, I had a hard time watching her little whatever 4 or 5 minute speech, whatever it was, but tough times, bro. She needs to sit down. I don't know how she keeps getting elected when she talks like that. I'm just saying that.
I don't think anyone pays attention in California. I just don't either. I mean, I'm not ageist or anything, but I am a little bit. I just really don't typically vote for anyone over 70 years old. I'm sorry.
You want them to?
Sorry, Mom, I love you, but there comes a time when we have to, hit the refresh button.
Well, do you want them to stay relevant and understand what's going on with the times? And somebody that's still saying colored people at their colored fountains may not be the right people to be running the country right now. You know what I mean? There's that.
Yeah, and it sucks because we've talked about it, and not to beat a dead horse or anything, but we've talked about it ad nauseum about how it sucks that our choices are always these ancient fuckers. Like, why can't we have anyone that like understands what America is now, not what it used to be, during Korea?
The good old days when I used to. No, never mind. The good old days when people used to get shot by fire hoses for going to the wrong school. Jesus Christ.
So, I think unless you have any closing thoughts on the RNC, I think we could probably move on to a very interesting conspiracy theory.
I got one closing thought. Notice, and I think this is kind of a backhand to what's going on with the pandemic. Very close proximity, almost like a concert. And I saw one out of maybe every 10 to 15 people that were wearing a face mask.
Oh, I got something.
Polar opposite to the DNC, which was all virtual. I'm just saying.
I got something to add to that too. I didn't like how several of the speakers for the RNC convention referred to COVID in the past tense. I didn't appreciate that at all because there's still a lot of people having. I mean, shit! I just told you my brother just got over it like 2 weeks ago.
Interesting enough, my cousin and his wife are just now getting over it in North Carolina.
Right. This is not a past tense thing.
Yeah, I know.
To refer it to the past tense to try to convince people that it hasn't affected yet, I think is dangerous. And well, I just didn't appreciate that.
So is having a rock concert at the White House during COVID with almost nobody wearing masks. I thought that was like, I was telling Jamie yesterday, I was like, interesting to see how many people get COVID or not. Again, I don't know how powerful the virus is right now. I'm not a scientist. But it seems like there was a shitload of people in close proximity, almost nobody wearing masks or socially distancing at all. And this just happened this week. So 2 weeks from now.
If you want to know, just keep an eye on the numbers about 10 days from now.
Yeah, true. But that's all I had to say. That was it. We can close it out.
So, interesting conspiracy theory. So we always try to find interesting ones that are kind of off the beaten path. And
I like this one, Bob. Don't laugh either. You're smiling too much.
Well, last week we talked about Tesla, and that was kind of out of nowhere. Not a lot of people even know that there's a conspiracy with Tesla, right?
Oh, what a good topic too.
But this one, I'd never even heard of, and I don't think many people are gonna know about this. But it involves some interesting things. Including Albert Einstein making an appearance on the show again. So that's good. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment.
Ooh, yeah. And I'm not talking about some really cool fucking pretzels or some cheesesteaks that are made. That's not the experiment.
Even though I'm open.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
So the Philadelphia experiment, for those that don't know, involves a ship, a destroyer, if I remember correctly. I believe it was a destroyer ship. I forget the name of it. Started with an E.
Oh, I got it. It's the SS Elridge.
Elridge, thank you.
Yeah, USS Elridge, and this is a new version of the destroyer. To give everybody a little bit of background here, I did this research because I watched a few other docs when I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube. But the destroyers, the regular destroyers, were getting fucking obliterated by the German U-boats during World War II. The reason is the German U-boats had a very, very quick turning radius, very, very sleek, very easy to fucking maneuver. The destroyers, the first version of the destroyers, a very slow, shitty turning radius, and I think over 1,000 destroyers were taken down from the Allied forces, meaning, the British, the French, and the Americans, from 1941 to 1942. So what they did is they made a new version of the destroyer called the Destroyer Escort in 1942, 1943. So as they're popping out these newer boats that had a much tighter turning radius, again, just could evade a little bit better, boom, pops in the USS Elridge.
And on that same note, if you guys haven't seen new Tom Hanks movie out called Greyhound, all about an anti-submarine boat, which I would imagine is a flavor of this type of ship. Very dramatic. So very cool movie. If you guys haven't seen that, Greyhound kind of gives you a picture about this boat and the life that they lived.
See, I'm so simple, Bob. I really thought you were going to say, if you haven't seen it, you got to see the movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks. And I'm like, what? What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
No. Relevance. We're about relevance here. And we're going to talk about a conspiracy theory from 70 years ago. So the story first appeared around the mid-50s. The interesting thing, it was all kind of predicated on a book that was written by Morris K. Jessup, right? And this guy was actually an astronomer and a UFO hunter.
One of the very first ufologists. We'll say that right now. And I remember in the doc that this was the worst time for him to be interested in stuff like this, because it was literally being bastardized by pop culture at this time. This is right after something else we talked about. It was right after, the Roswell incident, as movies started pumping into the 50s, comic books started pumping a lot of this UFO shit. So yeah, interesting stuff there. And just to take it back a little bit here, it started to get most notoriety in the 50s, but this is an event that happened allegedly in October of 1943. So it does go back into World War II. And again, the reason why, apparently, as you probably know, Einstein was working on something that he apparently never completed, but this is kind of the basis of what happened to the boat. It was the unified field theory. Long story short here, it was trying to combine and some crazy mathematical equations or what have you of gravity, electromagnetic fields, all this kind of shit, to where essentially you can, to give the Americans the edge over U-boats and over Germany, they wanted to be able to bend light, so to speak, and render their ships invisible to radar and to the naked eye. Okay? So just had to kind of give you that little backstory there.
So basically they had a skeleton crew on this ship of, I don't know what a skeleton crew of a ship that size is, probably 20, 30 people.
Sure. We'll just go ahead and say that.
It couldn't have been very much.
No.
This wasn't an aircraft carrier, but it wasn't, a bayliner. So there was some people there running the ship. And from eyewitness accounts, they say that this ship started glowing basically green, and then just fucking disappeared out of the harbor in Philadelphia.
And the main guy here, this is the guy that kind of perpetuated the entire story and has a lot of the allure. Carlos Allende is what he was known as, and he was on a different destroyer escort at the time. I can't remember. I would think it's not the El Ridge. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, his account was that it literally had this green fog kind of electricity kind of thing, disappeared, right? And then there's a couple different stories here. There's one that they did one test run, they made it disappear, it reappeared. There's a discrepancy with other people and said that it disappeared, showed up 200 miles down the road in Norfolk, Virginia at their fucking military harbor, popped up there. People supposedly saw it too. And then it just popped back and showed up again in the Philadelphia harbor same fucking day. And that's 6 hours away.
So we're not talking just about a bending of light and a ship becoming invisible, but we're talking about a ship actually teleporting, which kind of goes in line with some of the theories that Einstein was working on at the time. Interesting thing about Allende and his little annotations in the book, right? Was
I don't think we've talked about the book. We got
oh,
to,
okay.
because that's Jessup's book, right?
So Morris K. Jessup published a book called "The Case for the UFO." Is about UFOs and exotic means of propulsion, sightings, whatever, right?
Flying saucers, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Right. So years later, and who received the book?
Oh, it was a couple of naval officers. It was actually in a plain manila envelope that was sent to these two naval officers, and I believe the late 50s. I want to say 1955, 55. And it was addressed just on the back. It said "Happy Easter," right? And they open it up, and it, as you were just saying, there's literally notations all over the pages and 3 different colored inks and what appears to be 3 different types of writing. Now, I say appears because that maybe later is debunked. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so it looks like 1957, Jessup was contacted by the Office of Naval Research, ONR, about this paperback copy that they got of this book, right? They wanted to see if they knew any of the people that had written in this book. It turned to find out that the handwriting was actually identified and said, "Hey, I actually recognize this.
I've been getting letters from this fucking dude for a while now," is what he said. He's like, "I recognize his transcripts." Absolutely.
So, and allegedly, this is coming from an eyewitness. So, the interesting thing about this is the allegations are when this boat reappeared, that there were seamen that reappeared with the boat, but some of them were missing limbs. Some of them had their arms and hands and legs intertwined
literally
at an
molded
atomic level into the steel of this boat, screaming in agony. And then allegedly these seamen just disappeared.
Yeah,
as in they were taken off the history books.
Yeah, and what is said, right, to take it a step further here, is the guys that were kind of molded into the steel. Because if you think about it, it does make sense for what we know of theoretical particle transfer, right? Things get scrambled, they get mixed up, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they kind of are combined on the other end, when they're teleported, transported, what have you. So I get where they're going with that. Now, there also are guys that didn't get stuck or intertwined with the boat and were deathly ill or that fucking went psychotic. And all of these alleged skeleton members of the USS Elridge were written off, missing in action, and a lot of them that were still alive were committed to mental institutions. And if anybody knows, mental institutions in the 1940s, not very pleasant places. You're not going to get out of there very soon. So that's a good way to cover it up, if you ask me. You know what I mean? Because you're pretty much putting them in a spot of the abyss when you put them in mental institutions there. So that happened. But then also, what was very interesting, and this is something from the doc, is the naval officers get this. They ask Jessup, what the fuck is going on? Hey, do you know anything about this? Yes, I do. And what this does, because Jessup himself actually discredited all those letters that were coming to him from Allende, right? He pretty much this guy's a fucking crack job, whatever. You know what I mean? He's a nutcase, which again, we go further into the story, he was somebody that was maybe psychotic. Carl Allen, I think was his actual name. But this prompted Jessup to start his own independent study of the Philadelphia experiment. So what was really interesting about that is he started doing his own digging, Bob. And this is what I like. He started doing his own digging. He's thinks he's got something. He thinks he's got something. And a colleague of his, that's Dr. Mason Valentine. I don't know much else about the guy. He's just mentioned in the doc. He calls him up in 1959 and says, you know what? I think I've got something here. I think I figured this out, man. Let's meet up about this and let's discuss it. That next day, they find this dude's car, meaning Jessup, Morris K. Jessup. They find him in his car with the car still on, with a tube from his exhaust going into his car, the window rolled up with a towel, and by the time they get there to respond to him, he's still alive, but he's pretty much dead and dies very soon after from carbon monoxide poisoning. So what has been said in this instance as, okay, obviously the Navy or what have you, he found something out. This is the conspiracy theorist. They fucking offed him. He figured something out that we didn't want to know, that we covered up, and we need to get rid of this guy. With that being said, his daughter and other people say that he committed suicide because he recently just went through a brutal divorce, and all these UFO books that he'd written, he'd been getting horrible reception from them.
He lost his publisher.
Yeah, horrible reviews. And, you know, there's that school of thought, which makes some sense too, that he just had enough of it and he just ended his life. But it is pretty interesting. And this, I think, is the biggest hook to the whole conspiracy. He was, even though his book has tanked, he went through this divorce. Think about yourself. You go through all these bad things and you hook onto one thing. You're like, this is my mission now. I'm obsessed with figuring out the Philadelphia experiment. What the fuck happened here? And then he literally contacts somebody, another doctor, says, I got this. I figured it out. Come check it out. Doesn't seem like the time to kill yourself. You know what I mean?
No, most people that kill themselves don't make an appointment for the next day.
Right. Well, unless you're, who's the girl that we talked about that packed her bags to go on a flight and then, you know, killed herself in the hotel room?
The Clinton, one of the Clinton alleged.
And unless you know the Clintons, this usually doesn't happen. So that, to me, is one of the biggest hooks for this conspiracy from Jessup. You know, it's like he thought he was going somewhere, and then conveniently thought, you know what, I'm going somewhere with this. I think I broke the case, but I just can't stand my life anymore. I'm going to sit in my car and fucking just throw my exhaust in the fucking window. So there's that.
Just seems like there's an easier way, but so very interesting. Philadelphia experiment. If you guys want to know more, you know, get your Google on. There's a wiki page on it. There's a couple of YouTube documentaries that you can find. We didn't find any like live hosted docs anymore that are current, but we were able to find some old archive stuff that was, you know, redid and put on YouTube. So there's a little bit of info out there if you want to dig into the conspiracy theory.
Dig in there, because this is one that has a little bit of teeth. I won't discredit it 100%, because one thing I did learn from this research is, if the Navy, if the government did find out a way to do something that sounds impossible, like literally teleport and transport a 500-foot, 900-ton boat, would they tell us about it? Know what I mean? So
no.
They
wouldn't.
Well, Bob, do we have enough time for the stiff truth? Goodness gracious.
Well, I think the stiff truth will be pretty quick. Let's just dig into it. So, as you can tell from the signs of the YouTubers, we both have these neon XXX signs behind our head, which up until this point, if you're watching on YouTube, makes zero sense as to why we have that. But the stiff truth is actually about pornography. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing on a societal level?
Ooh,
I know if
beefy.
if you're
beefy,
14 years old and you got unlimited access to the internet, it's a good thing.
Sure. 100%. Yeah, we'll dive into this. You're right. It shouldn't be a long conversation here. Like, let's just face it. There's been a lot of people, and this goes back to the 1970s, right, Bob? A lot of people, and there was a really hardcore debate then about the legality and the moral, I guess, just the efficacy and everything of pornography. Does it degrade women? Does it show them in a bad light? Does it promote sexual deviance, right? Does it do all these negative things? And overwhelmingly, from the stiff truth's perspective, and I guess a lot of other scholars of pornography, Bob, no, it doesn't. In fact, my opinion on the whole subject is pornography is healthy if you're into it, right? And I think it's also a deterrent for some people to go places where they don't need to go. And what I mean by that is by rape, pedophilia, just sexual deviance in general. But that's my perspective. And that was my perspective blindly before I researched it. You?
So, yeah, I think pornography is a good thing. Obviously, there's cultural significance to it across the globe, right? It's not going to be good for every culture, just because there's some very prohibitive cultures. So, pornography in like the Amish community, the Latter Day Saints community, the Muslim community of old traditional Islam. Obviously, it's not going to work out in some sort of communities. But for the most part, there's been several studies that have looked at pornography as a whole, and societies that have more pornography introduced into their society, um, that it has been found over and over again to not increase sexual deviancy and sexual related crimes.
In fact, as we talked about before, in almost every study, either has the increase of pornography and viewership of pornography, whatever. There's either no negative effect or there's a positive effect, meaning there's less fucking rape, incest, all the stuff that they were worried about. And here's the other thing I got to touch on, because I gotta go ahead and say this. It's like, well, and this is probably one of the biggest proponents against anti-pornography too, is that, well, it paints women in a bad light. It paints them in a subordinate type, object view and everything, and it's disgraceful to women and this and that. It's optional to be in pornography if you're a woman. It's not a requirement. Nobody forces you into it. So I just got to go ahead and say that's kind of bullshit too, because I think it depicts men the same way. You know what I mean? So everybody's an object in pornography. That's the point.
All actors are objects.
Yeah, and that's the point of it in general. I mean, we're not nobody's watching pornography to watch an Academy Award winning movie, right? I mean, hey, don't get me wrong, it's quite gripping when the cable stops working and this guy knocks on the door that's got a 12-inch penis. You know what I mean? That's very dramatic, and I can see why people really get into it from a dramatical, acting kind of feel. But again, just joking around, everybody chooses to be in porn if they want to be in porn. Is the industry itself not corrupt? That's a different conversation. I'm not trying to go there or anything like that. But I don't think it's degrading. I don't think that's the point of it. And I think people that have that kind of proponent and that back up those statements literally do it from virtue and literally do it from passionate ideological stances, mostly religious, right?
Yeah, and there's something to be said for porn giving people an outlet that may be struggling finding partners, right? And it also gives people an outlet that may find themselves at an impasse sexually in their relationship, and then them and their partners could then spice things up with porn or get ideas or whatever. So I think there's definitely the positives to gain there. And as far as the societal impact, I just don't see. I mean, it drives economy, it provides jobs, it provides outlets for people at a sociological level. So I think that there's much more of a net gain in pornography than there is a net loss. Obviously, Jerry Falwell Sr. might disagree with me, but Junior's probably on board.
Oh, I'm sure he is. And who knows, without pornography, who knows what that guy would be doing? I mean, he's already tangled up in some crazy shit, but it sounds like a lot of things that he role plays with his wife and the pool boy and other people, maybe spurred from some pornographic viewing. Who knows? Maybe it's helped him.
Yeah, I mean, if he'd have just recorded that, he could have probably already profited.
Who knows? I might have downloaded it for free, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Or at least for a subscribe service. But I guess I don't really have a whole lot to say about pornography, especially because we're running up against it on time a little bit. But overall, the science is there. I just didn't really find anything that was a slap in the face as far as, nope, you're absolutely wrong. Look at this study; it's complete opposite. I didn't see that.
Well, and I'll say this as to be objective about everything. I guess the only danger to pornography, and it's not unique to pornography, is there can be a way to form an addiction on it, which can be unhealthy. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I can see. but that doesn't it doesn't paint it in a corner by itself, is what I'm trying to say. People can hook onto things and do too much of it to the point where they're fixated on it, and it maybe, it's detrimental to other parts of their life. But that's the only thing. It's just like everything else. It's like smoking cigarettes, drinking booze. It's like watching TV, whatever. That's about it.
Yeah, and to that effect, everything can be addictive. You can take anything and find an addiction for it. So
honestly, I'm not familiar with addiction and what it has done to people, but I get what you're saying. I'll just leave it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. What is addiction? I know what addict's in, but I don't know what addiction.
Yeah, well, and Stiffies, it's kind of a short, stiff truth, but hey, that's what it is. There's not really a lot to this one. And if you ask anybody, the stiff truth says pornography, good.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up for pornography.
You do what you got to do there, guys. And, rapists, people that want to do shit with, what have you, just watch some porn and calm the fuck down. Chill out. Like you said, people that haven't got the rocks off in a while, watch some porn and calm the fuck down. You'll find yours. Just keep fucking trolling those fucking dating websites or what have you. You'll get it done. Socially distanced right now. Don't go to the bars. You know what I mean? All I can say is stay away from the children and the minors. That's all I can say. Let's just
right. And that's with anything. Really, I have a personal belief that I just don't really care what people do behind their doors as long as it's 2 consenting adults, whatever, or 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know how you roll, Jerry, but
Jerry's got the pool boy, he's got the cable guy, he's got the mailman in there. He's bringing them all in there.
I'm not one to judge as far as that goes. I think it's kind of weird for people that want to judge people's sexual activities behind closed doors and why people are invested so much and who people fuck and how they fuck them. I just don't get that. But
seriously, pay attention to your own life,
Right. Personally, I just don't care. Again, as long as it's with consenting adults is the key there, I think, that everyone's on agreement with. But yeah, I don't know. I think a pornography, I think it's a net positive for society. I do.
There we go. I think so too. Profit margins too. Bring it home. Pornhub might even invest in them. Not sure. I'm sure they're doing pretty well. Have you checked them out?
Are they public?
They gotta be. They gotta be public, man. But well, I think that's about it, Bob. Let's wrap this one up, man. I mean, this was a good show, fun show. I really enjoyed. I think the conversation about the convention was really enlightening, really fun. Hope the Stiffies get something out of that, and I think bringing to light a little bit more for maybe a current generation about the Philadelphia experiment, because I think this is more of a World War II era kind of conspiracy. Dive in there. It's a fun one. It's a real fun one. So, guys, thanks for joining us again. I had a great time, Bob. Did you have a great time?
I did. I always do. This is like one of the highlights of the week. Every week.
That's very true. Very true. So, guys, we're going to close this bad boy out. You guys enjoy. Get in there. Make some Manhattans. Again, this is a stiff truth. Me and Bobby approve. Check us out. Again, this is old rhetoric here, but if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe. Check out and ring that bell so you get those notifications. If you're watching on the podcast or listening on the podcast platforms, write us a little review on Apple. Check us out on Spotify. And that's it, man. I mean, beyond that, we love you guys. We'll see you next week and enjoy.
See you, Stiffies. I just want you to know that it's all about the kids.
It's always about the kids. Stiff truth, the 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 stiff truth.